Welcome, Destination Aviation. I'm your host, Jeff Miller. We have a very, very long conversation today with a guest from the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. We have Mr. Kyle Lewis on, who is a regional manager, happens to be in the region of Illinois, where I reside. Kyle and I met a few years ago. We talked a little bit about at the beginning, so I won't be too redundant with this. But it's a good conversation. It's a long conversation. We actually, you'll hear this at the beginning. Kyle was kind enough to fly into the Chicagoland region through one of his business travels throughout the week on a Friday, and his flight on Southwest got delayed. And so we improvised, and we had conducted this interview in the vehicle, in the parking garage at the Midway Airport as he was waiting for his connecting flight to head out. So it definitely made it memorable. I will apologize up front if you hear some things in the background here and there. Normal sounds you might hear in a garage. But yes, that's where I spend my Friday nights, in a garage at an airport. But we'll get right into the conversation, and then we'll follow up at the end with show notes as usual. Well, Kyle Lewis, welcome to Destination Aviation.
Happy to be here. Appreciate the invite. Glad schedules worked out and I could be here in person.
It did. You know what? This is unique for me because, so I'll just say to the listeners, Kyle and I had this episode planned. He was flying in from Minneapolis, and things being as they are, I don't know if this is a part of what Secretary Sean Duffy said, but your flight was delayed. It probably just was going to be delayed anyways. But we're doing this in a vehicle in the parking garage at the Midway Airport.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, in fact, last night, a couple of friends I was with in Minneapolis, one happens to be a first officer with an airline, and we were taking bets on whether my flight would be delayed or even canceled today. And just about an hour and 15-minute delay, so nothing major. But I did notice on my flight, a lot of folks had very tight connections. And things were getting a little antsy on the plane just a few minutes ago. So.
I bet. You know, just coming down to Midway, anytime coming to Midway is kind of a pain in the butt traffic-wise, but especially on a Friday. So I was trying to pencil in the right amount of time, and I really wanted to get us on the top of the parking garage. Turns out that is daily parking only, and hourly parking is down by baggage claim. So we have a nice spread here in the vehicle. We have everything, I think, hooked up and running appropriately, unless one of our friendly security guards with airport security comes by and knocks on the window. Two weirdos with a microphone in a car, like comedians in a car, if you will.
Yeah, that's right. We'll just invite them in to say a few words, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, they're aviation enthusiasts, right? We'll give them a sticker.
That's right.
What's this bald guy got going on over here? But no, I've known you, Kyle, I think now for a few years. You came out to Chicago Executive Airport, where my day job is, and we had a conversation there. And I think I really was impressed with some of the comments you made to not only me as an airport manager, but to some of our flying community. But I think that was about the right time where we met each other.
Yeah, that was probably at least 3 years ago now, I think,
Yeah.
when I came up. Yeah, I try to come up to Chicago Executive Pilot Association and some other groups around Chicago, at least once a year, make a couple of appearances, in the Windy City, as it's called, and maybe for more reasons than one. But anyway, it's always good for AOPA to get out and connect with our members and other, state and local associations. So
no, I love that, and I love you. I love your attitude, your personality towards aviation, because quite honestly, so a lot of people listen to this podcast that aren't a part of the industry, so there's a lot of unknown, but a lot of people now listen to it that are a part of it. And I'll say sometimes there can be this perception that airport management and AOPA don't always get along, and I always say, well, I get along great with Kyle.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because when I started in this job about 9 years ago, I honestly did not realize how involved in the airport world I would be. My day-to-day is the state legislative activity, across the upper Midwest of aviation-related things. And when I say things, it ranges from, taxes on aviation fuel to some, local airport regulations on private airports, public airports, and everything in between. So, Yeah, we are the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. However, another big bucket that AOPA works in is the airport world. And, I don't see us as consultants. We're more of kind of like a liaison between the pilot community and the airport world. Because a lot of airport managers, and I'm talking from tiny airports all the way up to the Midways and O'Hares, they're not pilots. They didn't come up in that world.
That's very true.
Yep. They're more of an administrative, or maybe even at some of these GA airports, the airport is not their only job, right? They might be a public works director, oversee parks and recreation, or streets and sewers, and all kinds of things. So airports aren't their day to day. So we really try to educate on what the pilots expect. And when I say expect, it's not demand. There's certain expectations on both sides. But it's just finding that happy medium to coexist, because without airports, there's no pilots. If there's no pilots, there's no airports. So it really is coexisting in this aviation world.
No, I love that. And you had a joke once that I heard you say, and it was an airport professional that had asked you, was it orthopedics? What did you say AOPA stood for?
Oh, yeah, there is another AOPA. It's the American Orthopedic Association. Yeah, there is another AOPA.
Foot with a P.
Yeah, there with a P. Physicians, Orthopedic Physicians Association. Yeah.
So, the people that maybe don't know, I mean, you talked a little about that. I know your demeanor sometimes. This made total sense to me because you were probably one of the friendliest people I know, but you used to be a Ohio State Trooper, correct?
Yeah, so that was the previous career, and it seems like forever ago. But yeah, I spent about 11 years with the Highway Patrol in Ohio. I didn't get to do a whole lot of flying with them, but when the schedule worked out, I was able to go up with the aviation section a few times. But yeah, definitely an interesting career. I did go to Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, not to be confused with the long pause. You got to make that long pause. The Ohio State University. I just went to Ohio University and went through their aviation program, Part 141 flight school. But then as, the course of life happens, ended up with the Highway Patrol for a few years before I got back into aviation full time.
No, I love that. And I didn't know that either. I didn't know that was your career focus. Then you went to be a state, well, I guess, is it state trooper in Ohio or is it Highway Patrol?
Yeah. So just a little bit of, background on that. So the Highway Patrol in Ohio is a pure highway patrol.
Okay.
We didn't have jurisdiction on private property. It was only public roads and highways and basically speeding tickets and crash investigations.
Wow. I will say, so my brother lives in Ohio, and now my mother decided to buy a house on the railroad in Ohio. It's a beautiful state. I don't know why she chose by the railroad. and being an airport professional, the first thing she said when she moved in is, we got to get him to move this rail yard. I'm like, okay, I hear that a lot when people move by the airport, Mom, so you got to let that one go. But, I will say I successfully have never gotten a ticket in Ohio, but it seems a little less now. But in the last 10 years, it seemed like you guys really were out there. I saw more Ohio Highway Patrol out and about. So that makes total sense because that's your jurisdiction. That's your main job, right?
Yeah, it was, visibility was very important. I don't know how things have changed since I've left, but, visibility on the highway. Yeah. And to be honest, the number of tickets versus warnings, when it was all tallied up at the end of the year, it was pretty much 50-50.
Yeah.
A lot of people think there were quotas and all this other stuff. And really, the mission of the Highway Patrol was, public safety, but to also educate the public about all the things that can happen on the highway. What are the crash causing violations, which was, speed. Speed related accidents, loss of control. But yeah, the Highway Patrol in Ohio, a very respected law enforcement agency.
Yeah.
Had an aviation section. It has been trimmed down a little bit since I was there, but at one time they had, I think, 21 fixed wing aircraft.
Wow, 21.
21 fixed wing, and then 3 rotorcraft. Wow. They have a couple Cessna Caravans. And I think they still operate some air vans as well. But I still keep tabs. I still have a lot of friends that are with the Highway Patrol, but But I got to a point in that career where I kind of wanted to get back into aviation and really didn't want to go airlines. And I'd been flying since I was 18 years old when I started at Ohio University, and had been an AOPA member. My instructor told me basically on day one, you need to join AOPA.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Great,
so I did, and got the emails, which we send a lot of emails.
You do, but there's good content.
Yeah,
I will say, good content.
There is good content. And I just happened to be reading through, one of our newsletters or online articles, and at the bottom was a job description for, in the government affairs side, regional manager.
Yeah.
And it's not selling paper, by the way, out of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Thunder Mifflin.
Yeah.
You're assistant regional.
That's right, assistant too. Yeah. But basically, government affairs, airport advocacy. I met the qualifications, and in our role, there are 6 other regional managers across the country. We match the FAA regions, and be a pilot, have a little bit of experience with state legislature, airport authorities, and I'd been on an airport authority for a while myself, and actually had worked a little bit of state legislation as part of a role in that with the Ohio Aviation Association. So kind of had the baseline requirements all met. And the other good thing at that time was you were able to work remotely for AOPA in the region that you were going to be working in. So didn't have to move to Washington, D.C. or Frederick.
That's great.
So it worked out very well. So I'm still based in Southern Ohio.
No, that's so. When you mentioned, and it's funny because you said I work with someone who's Greek, and I thought when you were saying Athens, Ohio, you were saying not Athens, Greece, because he'll be the first. But Ohio State University is also, yes, I understand the distinction that you have to make there.
Yeah.
Was there always a passion for you in aviation, like when you're young, or how at 18 did you say, yeah, this is what I want to do?
So I think I took my first airplane ride probably when I was 4 or 5 years old.
Wow, that's young.
And then I started flying, RC, model airplanes, probably when I was 8 or 9. And my dad and I did that, when I was, young, all the way up through high school, and still fly those things today.
Wow.
So that was kind of my introduction into aviation. And then when I was 16 or 17, started kind of hanging out at the airport a little bit, getting to know a few people. And then, funny enough, I kind of had a crazy thought for a while that I wanted to go into broadcast journalism.
Oh, hey, look at that. This is a perfect fit in this Ford for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could have had a glamorous life in a parking garage.
Yeah.
Like me.
Just like, right. So I'd even considered, just as coincidence would have it, met somebody with the Performance Racing Network, PRN, that did the NASCAR races, and communicated with them, and almost did an internship.
Wow.
With PRN between my at the end of my senior year in high school, and thought about going down that path, but I had applied to a couple of aviation schools, Ohio University and the Ohio State University.
Yes.
Applied to a couple, and ultimately settled on Ohio University, mainly because this was back in '99. The school was very small, the aviation school. They were only accepting 15 or 20 new students every year.
Wow.
While Ohio State was just taking them by the hordes almost. And it just felt more, one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I chose Ohio University. It's a great aviation program. They've expanded exponentially in the last few years, just to try to keep up with demand. Everywhere.
Do you work on their advisory board or anything?
Yes. So with Ohio University, I'm on their alumni advisory board. And because they just recently purchased 7 new Cirrus aircraft.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And they're, like everybody's having struggles keeping flight instructors and,
sure.
and staffing and things like that. But they have a very good engineer. It's in the engineering college. So I like to say I have an engineering degree.
That seems fair.
Yeah. And I think I got out of all my math classes in college. So,
yeah.
I traded some flight labs with, that AP advanced calculus that, don't even want to think about that. But anyway, Yeah, so it's a great program. The engineering dean is very supportive of the program. So I think just with the influx of new aircraft and being able to cater, to the technologically advanced aircraft that Cirrus can bring to the table, I think they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, no, we have a couple different operators that use the Cirruses for flight training as well. I've never even sat in one, but I've never flown in one. But people that train in them tell me that they enjoy it. One of the things I guess in my mind that I hear often is if you are if you train on a Cirrus, that maybe you don't get a complete picture of flying because they are so advanced. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
me or in your opinion.
so I learned to fly in a 152.
I did some time in that myself.
152 where the door popped open,
Right.
and I
I
wouldn't
think
trade
that's just standard procedure,
thing,
right?
and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything
Yeah.
because I do think there is value in flying an airplane with the stick and rudder, so to
Yeah.
speak, experience. And Cirrus is not that.
Yeah.
Cirrus has a very strict training, curriculum for their instructors. They teach things a certain way. And Ohio University is approaching it in the right way. They're saying, hey, these Cirrus, they're great airplanes, but they're not going to be the primary.
Right.
It's going to be the advanced ratings, instrument commercial.
That's a nice mix
Yeah.
then, I think, too.
Yeah. So the the students are coming in,
Yeah.
still getting exposed to 172s and the Piper Warriors they have, and then transitioning into the Cirrus, which I think is great. There's a lot of schools out there that are Cirrus from day one,
Right.
and you don't get the spectrum
Yeah.
of some of that. Flying at 152, I think is a little harder than flying at 172.
Yeah.
They're a little more prone to just kind of what I call dancing around.
Yeah.
They're a little bit lighter. And I fly an RV most of the time today, an RV that I built, and which is entirely different than 172 or any of the other certified aircraft for that matter. But
It's funny. When I started my training in California, it was in a Remos. Which if you haven't heard of, that's okay because there's not that many of them. I've mentioned this in other podcasts, but they're unique. I think their claim to fame is you can take everything down to the empennage wing and everything off within like 4 hours, but you can't really land them in the bush because they're so fragile. I remember mine. After I went for a flight, and the next day I came back, and they're like, "Oh, you can't go. We found a giant crack under the seat." And I was like, "I was flying with a crack in there." They're like, "Yeah, it's been there for a little while." But, anyways, I went to a 172, I think M model, and it had a 6-pack, and it felt like a 747 to me because I was like, oh, I got all this weight here in the stick, but. I wanted to jump way back just for a second when you're talking about broadcasting. As you're talking and I'm hearing you, you do have a good voice for broadcasting. I think that it would fit very well in that, you kind of have that, almost like a sports announcer voice.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay.
They almost cast me in Jack Reacher.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And Top Gun 2. I was a runner-up. I was the backup guy for Tom Cruise in Top Gun 2.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah, I mean, well, next, I'm sure they'll make a Top Gun 3.
We're hoping, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
it's going to be the drone wars, right?
Yeah, right.
No pilots whatsoever.
Right.
AI. It's going to be Top Gun AI.
Top Gun AI.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was, right? And that was something that Tom Cruise demanded, right? That he wanted, at least in this Maverick version of it, I think they only had one scene that was AI produced.
I think
right?
so, yeah.
And I just saw some video online of, I don't know if it was a Phenom. Oh, we got a little buzzer from the car, but that's all right. We've already told our listeners we're sitting in a vehicle, watching the buses go back and forth.
Got a good view of the L over there. Yeah.
Right. No. I think I completely lost my train of thought with the buzzer. So let's just move forward. We'll go back and listen to that. You guys can figure that one out on your own. So you were 18. You started your degree. when you left, and just so maybe for the listener side too, because we do have a lot of people that reach out and ask about, career fields and getting into this industry. At that time, you decided to go to Ohio State Highway Patrol with the intentions to try to get in the aviation department, or was it?
Yeah,
what
that was an eventual goal, I think. But just based on I got married.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 14 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so got married and all this, and my wife, she really liked where she was at, because in order to go to some of the aviation section, you had to live within a certain radius of where the aircraft were based, and they went through a period of time where there were some state budget cuts, and that's when they sold off some airplanes, and airplanes always take the hit, right?
Yeah,
airports and airplanes always take the hit, but so it kind of, the stars never aligned, so to speak. But yeah, so did that, and yeah, right after college, so I graduated in '04, and it was still, aviation overall was still kind of that 9/11 slump right after 9/11. And I didn't want to be an airline pilot, so was still kind of just looking at the playing field, so to speak, and actually interviewed at Pittsburgh International Airport.
I worked there for a little while.
Yeah, in their operations side, but and it was just an entry level kind of thing, and decided I didn't want to move to Pittsburgh at that point. And then I also interviewed with a kind of a family-owned aircraft paint shop.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, in Eastern Ohio, and they were kind of going through a transition. The company was being sold to the employees from the longtime owner. They had actually done a couple of the AOPA sweepstakes airplanes.
Oh, did they?
Yes. So it's a very well known paint shop. Dial Eastern States painting in Cadiz, Ohio, home of Cary Grant, by the way. It's where Cary Grant was born.
Wow.
But just a really tiny little small town at a really small county airport. And, I just kind of decided maybe not the time to jump into a family business that's transitioning. And they're still there. That's where I got my airplane painted.
Oh, wow.
Actually, they're still trucking along, and they do excellent work.
Do they?
They do very good work. So, yeah, and then the Highway Patrol thing just kind of, opened up.
Presented itself to you.
Yeah.
How long were you said 3 years?
Oh, well, about 11 years.
Oh, 11 years.
Yeah.
Wow. 11 years. And during that time, you stayed current, you kept flying for recreation.
Yeah, so I kept flying, was on an airport authority.
Oh, you were? Oh, like a board?
Yeah, on an airport authority board for a local county airport. But it's all the same problems and all the same things that a large airport experiences.
Absolutely.
Just maybe the numbers aren't as big, right?
Yeah, and not as many resources to figure out the problems.
Yeah, which I think in this role with AOPA prepared me very well, because a lot of the issues we deal with are at small airports.
Yeah.
That maybe don't have a team of experts, to back them up, or engineers on staff, or whatever, or consultants on staff, for that matter. So, being able to have that perspective of a small airport, which a big majority of the airports in the United States are small community airports.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's only 350, 380 airports that have some sort of commercial service.
Mm-hmm.
And, how many large GA, Chicago execs are out there, one or two per metro area, maybe,
probably right about that.
Yeah. So, the small city and county airports are the vast majority of what makes up the NIPIAS.
No, it's funny, because I was part of the FAA reauthorization that just came out. The Senator Budd, I think he had put in, I don't think it's an amendment or just a clause with it, or whatever it would have been called, but for the Government Accountability Office to look at FBA transparency prices.
Yep.
So I did. I had a conversation with them, and it's also too, it wasn't so much focused on airport fees, but I talked about our fees, and I said, I think, at least in my perspective, there's, I understand the barrier to entry with a lot of fees, and it is expensive, and especially when you start talking about younger generation trying to get involved and learn to fly and increasing that population, which it seems like the numbers are getting better, which is good to see.
Yeah.
Because I too came about the time of recession and 9/11, and a lot of that me as well. I was like, oh, I want to fly, and it just was really atrocious to fly, benefit and salary wise. And it was, I think a lot of us get into this with that in our mind. And then at least during that time frame, you kind of were like, oh no, so I'm going to be maybe making 15,000 a year.
Right.
And a lot of my friends had, like the girlfriend had to sign for the apartment because they didn't make enough money to qualify for things like that. And so, but with the Government Accountability Office, I said to him, I was like, most general aviation airports don't turn a profit.
Correct.
And so when we start talking about protecting the assets, that's a warning sign too. Because, I've been this is the 8th airport I've worked for, and other facilities, where it is subsidized by a local source, whether the county or city, in a general fund, the local taxpayer, especially if it's general aviation, they're like, what purpose do I have with the airport? I don't want to give you $500,000 to operate the airport. I'd rather fix the pothole in front of my house. And so, utilizing the assets and figuring out a way to keep them, and keep them available. Because you look at our network of airports in the United States, it is the envy of the world. And we have one of these in every backyard, and you don't think about how much you utilize those until you do have a situation where maybe you have a loved one in an accident or an incident and they need to get medevaced out or something like that. And so there are some of these warning signs out there. So I love to hear the perspective, and that, you guys are out there really championing that message to protect them.
Yeah, and that's been an AOPA mission, for a long, long time. And if you go back at AOPA headquarters in Frederick, we kind of have an archive of, AOPA pilot magazines, and when we were part of Flying Magazine back in the, 1940s. And you open up and you read a lot of the issues.
Yeah.
They're the same ones today.
Yeah, right.
Like, you could almost cut and paste these articles into our current magazine, and it applies. So, I think ever since the first airport, there's always been these problems, right?
Yeah.
Funding them.
Yep.
And some states are better than others with how they fund airports.
Absolutely.
Illinois is a block grant state, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
Illinois DOT has a lot of the purse strings. Now they still have to follow the FAA, compliance manual and the AIP funding handbook and all that. But, these block grant states kind of act like a mini FAA, and it's another bureaucracy on top of other bureaucracy.
Yes.
and there's a lot of room for misinterpretation, I think, between
agree.
airports and the funding side of things. But also explaining to maybe a new city councilman,
Yeah.
well, here's how the funding works for airports. And, oh, by the way, for that new runway, we have to put in a 5 or 10% match, whatever the number is. And when that runway is, $2 million, that's a pretty big chunk of change.
That's a big ask.
It's a big ask sometimes. And airports need to be creative with the way they're funded, with the way they generate revenue. And AOPA, I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but, AOPA totally understands that. And what we ask of airports is to be, number one, reasonable about it, right?
Yeah.
And transparent.
Yeah.
Those are really the two biggest things, because pilots
Right.
Understand that things aren't free.
Right.
And AOPA, We've never asked for anything for free. We just kind of want those, justify it, make it reasonable,
Right.
and make it transparent.
Right. Well, I could say from the interactions that you and I have had, you always come across reasonable. I'm not saying that AOPA and airports are always seeing eye to eye and everything, and there is a lot of consternation. Even I had talked to some folks about this podcast, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna have AOPA on there," because there's cantankerous airport managers out there. That's but on both sides, there's bad actors here and there. But the majority of pilots, the majority of airports, in my mind, we're all here for the same mission, right? I love personally to fly. And, I want to see that these assets are protected, and, I want people to be able to use them, because sometimes, right, communities don't see it that way. They want the
Right.
airport to be gone.
Yeah.
And that's been more and more of a narrative around the country, especially in certain locations where, people come in, not my backyard, and, what I often hear as the airport operator is it's changed, right? Because you look at a lot of these airports, especially, Kelly's Airmail Act
Mm-hmm.
and 1920s, a lot of airports came online. And you look at, the old aerials, and they're, away from the city center, they're out in farmland. And then as urban sprawl happened, people built up around them. But, constantly what I hear is what's changed, and we work very diligently in that narrative. I find a lot of times, if somebody has an issue with the airport directly, usually something else is going on. I'm not saying that's always. I have a good list of people that will tell me they're going to put the airport up my butt, and that's just going to always exist. But most people, right, are reasonable, and I find that the same too in the pilot community. And when I talk to other airport managers about that, I'm like, have you talked your role, right? Because in your role, so for the listeners, your official title is regional manager. Is
Yes.
that okay?
Yeah.
And you're a regional manager, so you're assistant to the regional manager, selling your paper. But what states does that cover?
So I have Ohio and the state up north, which I'll not answer.
That seems fair.
Or just say Michigan, right? I'll just leave the M out.
Yeah.
So even though I'm not a huge Buckeye fan because I went to the other Ohio university,
Yes.
it's still fun to play the game with.
I'm from Michigan. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I know. It's another demerit.
That's right.
He's an airport manager, and he's from Michigan.
Yeah, I will say we did vacation in Michigan this summer.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where about in the middle?
We went to Traverse City and Mackinac.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's in this what July or?
Yeah, just before the 4th of July, we were up there. Actually, we went there for the Traverse City Air. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Perfect. Yeah. No, that's. I mean, that airport too has just exploded with growth.
It has. Yeah.
I've talked to the airport director up there several times, because they too went through a transition, I think, in the last 3 years, 3 or 4 years, maybe a little bit longer now. Time starts to mold, but going from really a county-run airport to an authority. And I think you probably work a lot in this area too, being in the government relations side, but I think they use the same kind of state act that Grand Rapids did to form an authority.
Yeah, and they've had some growing pains.
Yeah.
Airports, especially an airport like Traverse City, where they do have commercial service and a lot of GA.
Yeah.
It's a very active GA airport. I've flown in there a couple times, actually.
I bet it's beautiful. I've never actually flown. Well, I'm going to take that back. Once I did.
Yeah.
I don't really remember, but I mean, just with Leelanau Peninsula, it has to be
it's
a beautiful flight.
Yeah. And, so the airport management and the airport authority, for that matter, kind of have two different, what do we do for these guys, but we still need to serve these guys, right?
Yeah.
And it's a balancing act, and every decision is not going to come welcome to either community. And then you throw in an air show that happens every year, and there can be some discontent, things like that. So yeah, we've been involved with some things there at Traverse City, but the area is beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's some really, really good flying up in northern Michigan when you throw in all the grass private airports.
Yeah.
The RAF, for example, has done which is the Recreational Aviation Foundation, and it's 100% donor funded.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And AOPA, we work with their kind of state liaisons on, working with state DOTs or state DNRs, for that matter, on opening private airports or keeping private airports open.
Yeah.
And what they've done in northern Michigan with North Fox Island and some others, they've done some really, really good work up there.
That was always, because that was individual owned half that island, right?
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah.
So it was interesting. The very first podcast I ever did, I can't remember the aircraft type now; it's escaping me, but it went missing off the tip of that island.
Oh.
They were. It was a Cherry Festival aircraft. I think it was Russian.
Oh.
It's escaping me, but they never found it, but somewhere off of that. And but so the first airport I worked at was Manistee, Michigan, a Central Air Service airport. And you start pulling around and like, what the heck is this runway on this? Because half of it's DNR, right?
Correct.
And the other half is owned by an individual.
I think so, or it was.
It was okay.
Point,
not anymore, maybe.
I'm not
Okay.
100% sure.
Okay.
But there is some sort of an agreement with the RAF and on maintaining the runway, which is like the whole length of the island. It's kind of
right.
funny. Yeah.
No, I mean, because you have Pellston up there, Alpena, those are the commercial airports. And then Mackinac, I believe, at least what I've always been told from my time in Michigan, is it is the only airport in the state that is purely run by the Department of Natural Resources, staffed by the DNR, the airport managers.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
Mackinac Island Airport.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
And no services.
Correct.
Because they have their no engine rule.
Right.
On the island. And so I remember I've flown in there before, and I think services maybe St. Ignace up to the north.
Yep.
But yeah, beautiful flying area. So that you have Ohio, Michigan. What other states?
Oh, yeah, we were going across. So Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana.
Okay.
Which I call the generic Ohio. No offense.
No offense to them. I spent some time there too. It's not fun.
but they try. Indiana tries. They do have the Indy 500, which is pretty cool. But,
It is. It's funny how things work in life, because while I was waiting for you in baggage claim, somebody who works at the South Bend Airport texted me about the previous episode, and I was like, I'm actually at Midway right now, about to do an episode in the car, which I'm pretty sure I'm starting to smell marijuana coming through the car.
Yeah.
Maybe from across from us. So this could start getting loopy, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not us, but
It's not us.
but it's nearby. I can smell it. It's almost like I'm back in Toronto. It's on a street corner. So you have counterparts across the U.S. So how many are in your role?
Yeah, so there are me plus 6 others.
6 others.
We have one guy up in Alaska, which I'm very jealous of. He gets the entire state of Alaska.
Wow. Would you ever take that role for us?
Maybe in the summertime.
Okay,
That might be a
this is fair.
seasonal thing. I'd also have Minnesota and the Dakotas.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you go out that far.
Yeah.
The Dakotas.
Yeah, I
So-
go out to North and South
All right.
Dakota.
The previous podcast that I put out literally last night was with an individual. She works at the Minot.
Minot, yes.
Minot, which I learned it's because I was like, Minot? And then, of course, she said it's Minot. And the first sentence, I was like, Minot, why not? And I almost said it. And then she went into of course, like anybody who lived there. Of course, that would be the airport slogan. So,
Yeah, so I do have a funny story about my
Yes.
first trip to Bismarck, North Dakota. I was pretty new in the role, and I was going out there for, at the time, we were involved in what's called the Powder River Council. And it was a big chunk of airspace, military airspace, that had just been redesigned. This thing covered 4 states. And this is where the
Wow.
B1s do their low-level
okay.
low-level training.
Yeah.
And a lot of the, I think the NOTAMs for that airspace every day was 40-some pages. I mean, it was just crazy,
Yeah.
the activity in this. And, with this airspace, they would do some red flag stuff out there, all this stuff with the B1s. So I got pretty schooled up pretty quick. And this Powder River Council was an idea from my predecessor and our DC office of, hey, get all the stakeholders together and let's keep tabs on this airspace usage.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's pretty fresh, with AOPA. And my job was to go out and host this Powder River Council meeting at Ellsworth Air Force Base. And you had to get a clearance to go on the base and, this whole thing. And this was going to be, I think, in February. in
Perfect
Bismarck.
time to be in North Dakota.
Well, I have never stepped foot in North Dakota in my whole life. It's always been this place on the map, like, oh, it's way up there, And I remember getting to the airport in Bismarck, which is not a big airport at all, and getting the rental car, driving away from the airport. I get to a stop sign.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rapid City. I'm sorry, this is in Rapid City, not Bismarck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So is that South Dakota?
South Dakota, yes.
South Dakota.
Ellsworth.
A little bit warmer.
A little. Don't let the South part for you, right? I'm sorry, Rapid City, South Dakota. And the airport's pretty interesting there. It's kind of up on a hill.
Yeah.
And driving down, there's a stop sign to turn right to head into town. And a tumbleweed blows in front of me. Like a legit tumbleweed. Wow. And I'm
in the winter.
In the winter. And I'm like, wow, those really exist. Like, I wanted to stop, go pick it up, and look at it. And so, anyway, get to the hotel, and it's been a pretty long travel day just to get there. And there was a little restaurant, across the street, and from the hotel, and walk in, and the place is packed. Now, granted, snow is piled up as tall as the hotel I'm staying in. And I'm in Rapid City, and this little restaurant. Well, why is it so busy? It's just a little kind of bar restaurant. It was bingo night.
What else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do? Rapid City
Pick
on
up
a Tuesday night, right?
Or go to bingo.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, bingo night it is. And I sit down, and I'm at the bar, and just so happens the guy sitting next to me is a B-1 pilot.
Oh,
so
serendipitous.
Yeah, because he saw my AOPA jacket I had on. He said, "Oh, are you here for the meeting?"
Orthopedics.
Yeah. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Yeah, He said, I'm here for that too." And he said, "I'm actually from Dyess Air Force Base," and it was one of their safety guys from the base in Dyess, and he was up for the meeting, and so we're playing bingo, and I'm just kind of half paying attention. He's like, "You got bingo?" Oh, I'm like, "Oh, it's a bingo." And
now, is it like Uno? Do you have to declare?
Oh, you have to declare.
You have to declare.
Yeah, you have to declare.
So you were still in that declare zone.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, nobody had yelled
Nobody
bingo
had.
yet.
All right.
Yeah. Well, it just so happened the prize for that bingo session was a side of beef.
Is that a carry-on situation? Or?
So I'm thinking, well, I can't take it back. So I think I ended up gifting that to the bartender.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Side of beef.
Yeah, they were
side of beef and
pretty happy about that. So that was my first initial experience in South Dakota.
Wow. I was saying in the last podcast, I still have never been to North Dakota, but South Dakota, when I turned 18, I went to see the President's Heads.
Oh, yeah.
And was not really awestruck because when you see it, like on whatever picture, it's like right there. But then when you go to look at it, it's like little tiny, like little heads far away in the distance. And I think that is Rapid City, right? I think
yeah. So I've been to Rapid City since then a number of times. In the Black Hills and Deadwood, that western South Dakota, it's actually beautiful.
Oh, I love.
When you get back in springtime, early summer, it's great. I wouldn't recommend February. Although I did, in some downtime, I was able to go out and see the presidents out there. And it's kind of one of those things you drive, it's only 20 minutes from Rapid City.
Yeah.
And in February, there's nobody there.
Right.
And you just kind of drive by and like, oh, well, that's not very big.
Right.
So, but it was, then you drive out around you can drive around and look at the profile view, the little viewing area.
Look up the nose of Washington.
And I'm the only one probably within 50 miles of this place. And I'm like, if I get eaten by a bear,
right?
I should probably stay in the car. Yeah. But western South Dakota is just gorgeous. And, I've got some friends out there now. Ray Gillick, who ran Black Hills Aviation at the Spearfish Airport. Really great guy, really involved with the RAF. So I spent some time in, Rapid City and Sturgis and Deadwood, and I haven't been to the rally in Sturgis, but I've got an open invite.
Oh, well, perfect.
So,
well, you're the guy with the side of beef, so
that's right.
Invite him.
Yeah, popular guy.
All right.
Yeah.
So with that, when you have your state tour. So is there with Alaska? Is there 6 of you that have this role?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in this role now?
So I started with AOPA in early 2017. So it'll be 9 years. In February, March-ish. It'll be 9 years.
So just for your job, then you spend. I know you said at the beginning it was almost all remote working. Now you split your time in Maryland, or
no? So I get to Frederick a few times a year. It just kind of depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, our VP of government of our airports and state advocacy he had left to take a job actually with Northrop Grumman,
Oh, wow.
and he had made some commitments, for some meetings and things in Washington D.C. and Maryland. I just happen to be the closest regional manager to Frederick at the moment, even though it's not in my region.
Yeah.
So for some of these meetings and things, it was just a little bit easier for me to get over there than,
Sure.
our guy in Texas, for example. So, so I get to Frederick a few times a year, but also with AOPA internally we do our AOPA fly-ins and some other events across the country. A few years ago, they kind of tapped me to lead our airside operations.
Oh,
so for the fly-in we do in Buckeye, Arizona.
That's in February, right?
In February.
And now, why didn't you pick South Dakota?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arizona is nice in February.
It is. It's a nice spot to be.
Yeah. So I help, and there's also some other AOPA staff. We have a full-time, events and outreach that do all of our what I'll call special events.
Yeah.
Is
that for us, maybe?
Red and blues right there. But anyway, I think they're.
Sorry, officer.
Yeah, sorry. Like Oshkosh and Sun and Fun and our fly-ins, and then special events for internal events, and then the Hoover Awards and the high school symposium. So we have a team that does all the work to get those organized and set up and going, and they do an excellent job. But on the fly-in side, we're dealing with airports, and we're dealing with ATC, and we're dealing with FBOs, and they like to have somebody that's versed in that language.
Makes sense.
To help, bring some of these events to life. And so myself and a couple other AOPA staff, we work with the airports on, the fly-in procedures, the air traffic procedures to come in. We kind of do a mini Oshkosh style arrival into Buckeye.
Really? So it's that many planes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So Buckeye, Buckeye is getting bigger every year.
Okay.
And it used to be the Copper State Fly-In, if anybody remembers that event. That was the nexus of what became the Buckeye Airfair.
Okay.
So this is a city-run event. It's a full-fledged air show. With waivered airspace and everything. And the Copper State group, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think they decided to part ways with the city or whatever they decided. And they called AOPA and said, hey, we'd love for you to come out to Buckeye and take over the fly-in portion and manage the static displays, help coordinate the air show, the fly-in is the big part, that they really wanted to keep that. Also so happens the mayor of Buckeye is a pilot, AOPA member.
Oh, that's perfect.
Very enthusiastic that we're there. And we've been there since 2020. I think our first official year was 2022.
Yeah.
And then 23 and 24, just really taken off. We had, if memory serves me right, almost 800 operations in the 2-day flying portion of the event.
Yeah, that's
we had like 80 to 100 aircraft camping.
Wow. That is a mini Oshkosh.
Yeah, it kind of and really, like you said, it's getting bigger every year. And I know, in fact, our pilot information center, they're getting calls all the time of, hey, what's the dates this year, and when can I register? And I know we've already opened exhibitor registration.
Yeah.
And exhibitors are excited about Buckeye because I think Sun and Fun's in Florida, and it's a big event. Don't take anything away from Sun and Fun, but there's really nothing West Coast. Or in the Phoenix, southern LA area, with the air races leaving Reno. Which really wasn't a fly-in event. That was more of an air show and the air races.
Yeah.
But there really is no big event on in the Western United States. So this has a lot of potential. The airport and the city, 100% behind this, and it makes sense for AOPA to partner on an event like that. And we did the same thing in Akron, Ohio, this year, just a few months ago. The weather was great, but the heat.
Yeah.
It was like, 98 degrees with 90% humidity, and it kept the attendance down.
Yeah.
But it was a successful event. And we didn't work with the city like we do in Buckeye. It was another nonprofit local association called Inspire Aviation that does a lot of good work in the inner city communities of, Akron, Cleveland, Youngstown, bringing aviation programming into those schools.
I love that.
So they do a lot of great work. We were happy to help them out, support them. If we go back in the future, I think we're maybe working through some timing things. It was just right after Oshkosh, and so it was kind of stressful on everybody, even though it was a great event.
Right.
If they're able to adjust the dates a little bit or something, we're looking at potentially going back. But there's some other options on the table.
It's interesting because in my mind, it's funny because you're based in Ohio, you're Ohio, and you have a big air show called Buckeye. That's not, not in Ohio. Yeah. It's like almost like you had something to do with that.
Well,
it's not called Michigan.
It's not. That's right. So funny story. Buckeye, Arizona was founded by guys from Ohio.
Okay.
So it does have an Ohio connection, which is kind of funny.
Everything in aviation seems to come out of Ohio.
That's weird, isn't it?
It's weird. So if you're at the people that listen to this are the general public, best spot, they could come to this, right? The air show. So if they want.
It's open to the general public. Last year, the city of Buckeye reported 30,000 attendees.
Whoa.
And they do a Friday. So the Friday is kind of like the air show practice day. But what they do is they bring in field trips of school kids.
Wow.
From all around, that western suburb of Phoenix.
Yeah.
I want to say 1,500, kids.
That's great.
And they break them up into groups, and they take them around, and they talk to the air show pilots, and they do a little bit of like a STEM lab. They talk to the airport manager, and they talk to AOPA about what we do. And it's a really cool thing for a Friday. Right? That's the air show practice day. And then Friday evening, they kind of do a little like sneak peek to the general public and the sponsors, and they do a little kind of night evening air show. And then Saturday and Sunday is just, air show stuff all day.
Yeah.
We had about, in the static display, 50 airplanes
50
or better. And then Buckeye brings in some aircraft as well. So they had like a fire bomber. The CAF, Commemorative Air Force, brought in some aircraft that were put on static and flew in the air show. They had a helicopter rides, and it's growing every year. We've already got a larger static display this year laid out. The city of Buckeye has a whole new area that they're expanding out to.
Yeah.
And the mayor, he has not been shy about it. He wants this to be the sun and fun of the West.
No, it's always great to hear someone, especially in an elected position, that's very enthusiastic about aviation. I feel this next year will be year 25 for me in aviation, and I wish there were more Buckeye mayors.
Yeah,
out there.
We do too. I promise.
What's the exact date of the? It's in February. You said, or
it's a President's Day weekend.
President's Day weekend. Okay.
I want to say it's the 13, 14, and 15.
So if you're not buying a mattress, you head to Buckeye, right?
That's right.
I don't know why the mattress stores.
Yeah.
I always have these President Day discounts.
Yeah.
So that's great. So that's the fun part of your job. You oversee 6 states. Now, do you try to spend an equal amount of time, or do you focus your energy where it's best used if you're seeing stuff on the horizon that AOPA can help champion?
Yeah. So I'll kind of give you a run of my day to day, right? So the legislative, state legislative advocacy is our top line priority.
Yeah.
And that's hit or miss on what's happening, right? I mean, like Wisconsin, there could be zilch going on, right?
Yeah.
For example, this year, Ohio, there were 4 bills that we were working on in Ohio. Now, only the biggest one was the funding, the state budget. So that's where we spent a lot of time working with the Ohio Aviation Association, going around the state, doing some outreach, legislative roundtables. And I'll admit, I'm local in Ohio, so it's a little bit easier for me to do things like that.
Sure.
But however, I was in Minnesota the last couple of days Met with the state DOT, their aeronautics director, and then had some meetings with state legislators prepping for the next session that's going to start in February. So there's some good things in Minnesota on the horizon. So it's kind of, we don't drive that. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is playing defense.
Yeah.
Some of these bills pop up where, they want to say, well, airplanes can't fly here, right? And
Right.
so it's a state legislator that doesn't know anything about aviation. It's not their fault.
Right.
And maybe they don't think it's a negative thing that they're trying to do, but, the bill gets introduced that says, well, airplanes can't fly over, this park or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
and I'm just being very general about this.
But still, I know what you mean, because I've seen those examples, I should say.
Yeah. And so then, then we get, obviously we have software that tracks all these different legislative bills and
Oh, you do? Is that proprietary to AOPA?
no. It's a LexisNexis product called
Okay.
StateNet.
Okay.
And,
So it picks up like
keywords.
keywords.
We have keywords that, and we update those all the time, right?
Especially you guys pay for that?
Yes. So that
okay.
is
Yeah,
that is part of.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah.
It's hard. There's so much coming all the time, right? You can grab a representative. That I've never heard of that. That's
So
pretty
we
slick.
track that. I mean, honestly, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I get emails from StateNet that product on even pre-files.
Yeah.
So we can see things before they're actually introduced.
Wow.
Which gives us a little bit of a heads up on, hey, well, this is going to happen in Indiana.
Yep.
Which gives us time to make those local connections to a state pilot association.
Sure.
Or the airport management association. And there are some things that are generated by those other associations.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, I would say 9.5 times out of 10, we're involved in those conversations already.
Yeah.
But there are these one-offs where, like there was a state, this has been a few years ago, for example, their budget was limited anyway, and what they were spending on direct grants from the state dollars. And the commercial service airports wanted to take 50%.
50% of
50%.
That's usually the way that goes, isn't it?
Yeah. And luckily, we got involved. We were able to have conversations with the legislators, educate them on what general aviation is. Because a lot of these state representatives, they are not aviation people.
Right.
You do get every once in a while, a pilot or, a family member was a pilot, so they have some understanding. But they're just like the general public. The airports they see are the Midways or the O'Hares or the John Glenn's or whatever. And that's their connection to aviation.
Yeah.
Is getting on an airliner, right?
Yeah.
And they've never been exposed to the other side of aviation.
Right.
So, like I said, 9.5 times out of 10, it's a simple conversation. We do register as lobbyists when we have to, because the state laws are different on all of that. Some states are a little bit more strict. Some states, it's how much you spend or how much time.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful about, how we're going about certain things. But, usually it's a conversation, right? In their office, and we show them some facts and figures, and here's what general aviation is, and here's why it's important. And, it gets resolved before it even gets into a big thing, right?
Yeah. Well, because even on I'll say on the Illinois side, because you were gracious enough to come, because I know you have a very busy travel schedule to come to our state conference back in September, right off the heels of coming back from Alaska, from your friend up there who has a whole state.
Yes.
But you were some of the stuff you mentioned that I think is really helpful, like in our state, is emulating some of the successes you've had in places like Ohio and I believe Minnesota, different funding mechanisms to get back into the pipeline for airports. Because the hard part, and I've expressed this, especially people that listen to this that are not in the industry. If you're a general aviation airport, you're entitled to $150,000, whether you are Stark County, Indiana, or Teterboro.
Right.
$150,000. And, the reality with the FAA is the priority is runway out. And I get that. I understand that. I'm not even necessarily arguing that. I mean, that makes logical sense, but it does make it difficult when you start talking about vertical projects and ramps and things like T-hangers. And so I loved some of the examples that you had of successful
legislation you've had in other states. And so I would say even too, like on our part, even not the defense side, but the stuff that you guys have championed that, we could look at here as maybe a playbook to try to get more money into the, the line for airports in Illinois.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about I'm talking about state politics. We're not talking about the federal stuff because that's a
Right.
different animal, as everybody can see day to day on the news.
Yeah.
How that plays out. But at the state level, these state representatives, they're just normal working people.
Yeah.
Right. They're teachers and farmers, and they're actually trying to do the right thing.
Right. Right.
And any meeting I've ever requested of a state representative, their door has been open. And that's from leadership all the way down to their members. And I think, a national organization like AOPA, where we are very strong is with our membership.
Yeah.
Right. We have a very good vocal membership.
I think you have the largest membership out of any organization.
We do. Yeah. We are, above 300,000 members.
Yeah.
And of course that fluctuates all the time, but
Right.
We've been pretty solid, around the 300,000, 350,000 mark for a long time. And we have very good numbers, high percentage of aircraft owners are members. So, the bread and butter of our advocacy is our members.
Right.
I'm just lucky enough to be able to be that conduit,
Right.
That can connect the two.
Right.
Right. Because what was successful in Ohio with this major funding increase that we've been trying to get for years. Just for example, I'll go back to like 2000, because I was on the airport authority in Ohio, back to like 2008-ish.
Yeah.
2008, 2010, the state aviation programming was funded at $800,000.
For the whole state.
For the whole state. And that was, for the administrator on down, right?
Wow.
And it's a very small office in Ohio. We're 4 or 5, 6 staff. They'd oversee the tall structure permitting, aircraft registration, some any direct grants that came from state dollars. $800,000 does not go very far.
No. That when you just mentioned tall structures, I feel like that's more than $800,000
oh my gosh,
right there.
Yeah. And that, to be honest, that was also being used to match FAA grants.
That they had a grant. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and as you know, as an airport manager, and just to explain how this works, the more money that can be matched, right? So if you've got, let's say 150 airports that are eligible for FAA dollars, how many of those airports can match a grant this year, right?
Right.
That they have in their savings, basically, to match 5% or 10% or whatever that number is, depending on how it's funded. If you've only got 40 airports that can do that,
Right.
And let's say in Indiana they've got 80 airports that can do that. There's a big disparity
Absolutely.
between the two on how much money they're drawing down from the FAA.
Yeah.
Well, in Ohio, obviously, was not getting a lot of matching funds, which limited how much FAA money was coming in. So in about 2014, the Ohio Aviation Association, and maybe even before that, it could have been earlier, the Ohio Aviation Association kind of got their stuff together and really started working hard on the advocacy side. In fact, they got an executive director, Stacy Heaton, who actually used to work in Chicago.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I met her. She was very friendly and intelligent, and seems like the right person for the job.
Yeah, so Stacy came on board with and had very good airport experience, planning experience. And I think she had worked at a few different airports, I think, and with the Columbus Regional Airport Authority, and really started working hard on the advocacy. And then I came on to AOPA, and we started working together.
Yeah.
And okay, what can we focus on that's attainable? And as we spoke to legislators, the funding started to go up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think in 2014, 2015, the funding got bumped up to like $4 million, which was a lot better.
A lot better.
A lot better.
A lot better. Yeah.
But when the ask out there for state grants was around $22 to $25 million.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
No, yeah. I mean, when you're talking matching, is that, were they pulling that directly from the general fund or like a roadway fund? Is that where they were?
Yeah, and that was part of the problem was, and again, if you're listening, money that is generated on airports are supposed to stay on airports, and that includes local sales tax.
I like how you throw it supposed to, because we all know a lot of times it doesn't.
Supposed to.
It's supposed to.
And Ohio was kind of like maybe not really doing that correctly.
Yeah, right.
And other states aren't as well.
Maybe the state we're sitting in this parking garage in right now.
And another state out west.
It may not be doing that.
That starts with a C and ends with an A. That's totally. They're totally off the mark with what they're doing. But so
they have a podcast too.
Yeah. Yeah. So there, like I said, there's good states, and then there's not so good states on how they're funding their airport systems. And Ohio was technically in compliance when you broke it down to the letter of the law with the FAA. But being in compliance doesn't mean you're meeting your need.
Right.
Two entirely different conversations. So Stacey started the idea of these legislative roundtables, and let's get airports together in a region, and start talking. Right. And about the time that started, Stacey came to AOPA. Her husband got an offer with his engineering firm in Florida, and it just so happened we had an opening at AOPA, and things worked out.
Yeah.
So Stacey's with us. She's been a great asset.
Yeah.
Especially in Florida, because that's where our grumpy old members are. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of older relatives down there. A lot of them were grumpy. One of them was a pilot.
Right. That's a joke. Come on, everybody.
It is a joke. It is.
No, we have actually a lot of the aviation community in Florida is amazing, and the Florida Pilot Association. I've met their president at one time, Tony Restaino. He won our Sharpless Award for the work he's done at North Perry Airport and everything that's going on. But Florida is just so busy with general aviation.
Oh, yeah.
That being busy and the growing pains that airports are going through, and the flight schools are busy, creates a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some for the good, some for the bad.
Right.
So Stacey has been a really good asset, especially with Florida and all the southern region. And there's been a population shift, right?
Yeah,
we've seen people moving to the south,
right?
For whatever reason.
It's getting away from North
Tennessee.
Dakota, South Dakota, a little warmer.
Yeah.
Free meat.
That's right.
Go to the bingo.
Yeah, go to the bingo.
But yeah, it's interesting because on the airport side too, I've heard the same thing, that right now there's some things coming through the state legislature that's peeling back some of the money revenue, because they seem like, is it five districts of funding sources? They break out like the Panhandle. It's certain areas.
They have different funding levels for different. I don't know if it's population based or how they decide that in Florida.
Yeah.
But back to my point about funding in Ohio. This is kind of just an example. And then Tony Fiore came on as the executive director, and Tony's day job is a lobbyist with a lobbying firm in Columbus. And Tony has just totally immersed himself in aviation, and it's great because Tony has very good contacts at the State House, into the governor's office. He's got experience working with the Chamber of Commerce in Ohio. Right. So Tony has very good advocacy, contacts, which help us.
Right.
Because AOPA, I can't be everywhere all the time.
Right.
And to get bills passed, you have to be there in person. You have to be there, shaking hands and going to the events, meeting the legislators. Because I think at the state level, there is that level of trust, right? Right. And respect, obviously. But they want to know who you are, and they want to know what your association is about.
Yep.
Because these legislators are getting pinged all the time from, whatever, the Pick Up the Leaves Coalition or whatever it is,
I think I have that in my neighborhood.
Yeah. The HOA of America,
right.
Whatever, knocking on their door all the time for this or that. So to them, AOPA, well, this is just another alphabet group, right? So you have to go in with an open mind and be able to convey what the issue is, and then also why it's important.
Yeah.
And the good thing about aviation, you can relate aviation to day-to-day life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have the law enforcement aspect. You've got public safety. You have the medevacs. the high school STEM programming. Aviation is perfect for that.
Oh, yeah.
The UAS, the drones are a big hot topic right now.
Yeah.
UAS is just huge everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the news today, but Archer just signed, I think, a contract or a big lease on Hawthorne Airport in California.
Oh, did they? Good
Yeah,
for them. I had not seen that. Yeah, that's
it's
great.
a hundreds of millions of dollar deal
Wow.
for some space at the Hawthorne Airport, which I think Hawthorne was kind of on our watch list anyway.
Yeah.
So
That's good though. Another resource to protect. Is that I'm assuming that's where they're thinking maybe to support the Bay Area? Is that
yes,
process?
so Archer eVTOL company, they're looking at doing moving people to and from around that area. How far away is it? I don't know.
Right.
I honestly think the technology is there.
Yeah.
It's again the regulation side of it, and
what would be your thought that? Because I was asking this at I was actually asking at NBAA, National Business Aviation Association meeting back in October, and I was talking to someone because they were talking about Dubai and that the regulations are basically stripped away.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're not to scale in a place like that, or Brazil or China, where the regulation isn't standing in the way? Because I haven't in my own mind been able to wrap around, because I agree, you go and you look at it, like the technology's there, and you hear in this country a lot from the developers, regulation,
Yep.
and it's like, well, what I'm just curious, and because I can't figure that one out.
So it's one of those hard questions. I think aside from the regulation, right? And let's put all the airspace and all that stuff to the side.
Yeah.
I think when you boil it down to why hasn't this happened yet? Because obviously technology's there.
Right.
I think it's really is there a market for it?
Yeah.
Is there a real life market for, you want to get from Schaumburg to Midway or O'Hare?
Right. I would have done it today.
Yeah. Right.
We could have done this in a chair over
Right.
there in the stall.
But I think you look at New York City, and you've got, I mean, heck, Pan Am had a helicopter service from Teterboro to Wall Street, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
And it didn't make it.
It didn't.
And you have Blade, and which is maybe owned by Uber or who whatever.
I think they just got purchased by Archer, right?
They may have.
Archer bought Blade in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, they may have. So the model is already there.
Yeah.
But the use maybe doesn't match what.
Right.
So I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think the market is there yet.
No, that makes sense. It's the same. People ask me all the time where my headspace is on it, and I often think if the regulations are a big part of it, a place like Dubai or something, seeing them to some scale, I do think, in my own opinion, that if there's a market maybe up front, I always think of like early flying where the price points are much higher, right?
Yeah.
And you're probably going to see it develop with that corporate user first, that last mile from the airport. But we're on the Advanced Air Mobility Working Group in the state of Illinois. We're trying to stay engaged with the conversation. But, I just did a whole presentation on this in Atlanta for the AAAE annual American Association of Airport Executives, for those who are not in aviation. And I said, while we want to be in the conversation, I don't want to lose sight of what we have today, because that's the foundation that keeps the airport healthy, right?
Yeah.
Our users today.
Yeah.
But you could see, like on our airport layout plan, maybe something that's easily adaptable, like a helicopter area that we have helicopter users today, but light, because to your point earlier, Chicago has never really developed into a city that utilizes helicopters, even much less so than like LAX, Los Angeles area, New York. And to your point earlier, even with those being limited, but
it was kind of funny. So I was listening to a podcast.
Well, thanks for listening to us.
Yeah.
What did I say that was intelligent? No.
Yeah. And on this podcast, they had Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, yes.
Right? Yes. And, agree with him, disagree with him, whatever. It's funny that this topic even came up, because this podcast was from 2018.
Wow. Okay.
I was just kind of going back listening to, listen to different things. And the subject of flying cars came up.
Yes.
Right. And this is 2018. This is, a long time ago now.
Yeah. You had just started AOPA.
I had just started AOPA. That's right. Yeah. And his take on it was very interesting.
Yeah.
And he agreed the technology's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but
Right.
We're looking to travel in that three-dimensional space.
Yeah.
And to go from one point to another, in a metro area. Well, we already have that, is what he said. It's called bridges. It's called bridges and overpasses.
Yeah, right.
And when you need another one, you don't go buy a flying car.
Yeah, right.
You build another,
Right. Right.
road. Go to Texas, for example, like
Right.
Dallas, Fort Worth. I mean, they got like 7 highways stacked.
Right.
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 And traffic is still horrible. But it's true. We do have that 3 dimensions to work in, which is going up.
Yeah.
With the roadways.
Right.
And we're building one next to it.
Yeah.
So, what is the answer? And I do think there is a market for certain aspects of the EV tolls in the UAS.
Right.
And I think the bread and butter right now is in that cargo transport. It's in that medevac. Hospital to hospital blood transfers, or maybe patient transfers. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think there's got to be a starting point for everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's going to be a switch flipped. That says, okay, we've got flying cars, and they're going to start out at Schaumburg,
Right.
and you can get to Midway, and then get on your flight to go to L.A.
Well, you know what? It's funny because I was talking to somebody today. I was like, if you look at the most aggressive, because you go to some of these presentations, right? They're like, it's gonna be thousands, hundreds of thousands in 4 years, and I'm like, if that is true, it no longer is advantageous to use it.
Right.
The only reason why it works for the person that can get in the helicopter now is you go over Jeff Miller on the 7th-layer bridge. But when you introduce, you and I both work in this space, you could not make that influx of aircraft into the airspace without having some sort of flow procedure,
Correct.
a departure time, and then, is it advantageous versus just getting on the highway? So I'm not poo-pooing it. I think it's really cool technology. I saw some of it at MBAA, and I was a little bit off with TNCs, and, over the course of a year, we had the whole land side of the terminal built up for taxi cabs. And then a year later, there's like no taxi cabs and all these cars dropping off with everybody else. So, to stay invested in it. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, now that we have a lack of oxygen in this car and some marijuana floating in, there's been some contention between our groups.
Yes, of course.
And even when I was talking about coming on this podcast with you people, you're going to talk to AOPA. How dare you? And things like ADSB, which is, I guess, just surveillance in itself, but basically broadcasting the position of an aircraft. Right. You guys had some legislation out there in support of not using ADSB for things like fee assessments. And, I have always said a couple of things. And I've met, I think, Stacy, and I forget the gentleman's name in Texas, who was
Tom Chandler.
Both very, very nice, friendly people that, maybe we don't always see eye to eye, but respectful and understanding. And that doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, but what do you think over the years has caused this rift between airports and AOPA?
So, we've been AOPA, and again, let's go back to 1939.
Let's go way
back.
Ohio was leading as they do now in aviation.
So 1939, when AOPA was formed, why were we formed? Well, it was honestly to protect aviation.
Yeah.
When World War II kicked off. Because what did the government want to do?
They would take everything over, right?
They wanted to take away airspace for military. Yeah. They wanted to take airports for military use. So AOPA was formed to help protect general aviation. At that time, everything was general aviation, right?
Right.
But when I go to conferences and speak about this, and you've heard it, I usually open up the presentation by saying it's never been free.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Right. Even when the Wright brothers, I'm sure they had to get a permit to fly on the sand at Kill Devil Hill. There was probably something they had to do.
I'm sure there was.
I would love to see it if it exists, because then it would make me look like a genius. But they probably had to get some kind of permit,
I would think,
to go fly their machine.
Their flying contraption.
On the beach at Kill Devil Hill. So that I open up with that joke, but it could be true. I don't know.
It seems right. It seems accurate to me.
It seems accurate.
Yes. As much as you and I could not sit in a parking garage and not pay for it, it seems accurate. If there is a way to make money, a municipality will figure out
that's exactly right. So, so let's fast forward. These issues have always existed. Fees versus access, and all of that. When you talk about ADSB specifically, so we are 5 years into the mandate of if you want to fly in what they call rural airspace, which is where you're required a mode C transponder, and above 18,000 you have to have ADSB out, right? That's currently. AOPA, all of the associations were in agreement that this is a good thing.
Yeah.
We were, as the FAA put it, we were told that this wasn't going to be used for enforcement. It wasn't going to be used for fee collection. Trust me, there were concerns about that.
Right.
When ADSB was being developed, that, hey, this could go down a very slippery slope if there aren't some guardrails put around it, but the FAA assured that was not going to be the primary use of the intended use of ADSB.
And it's automated dependent, or no, automated.
Automated dependent surveillance broadcast. ADSB. I had a thing in my head.
Yeah, I don't know why I always I'm like, thank you for getting me there.
Yeah. So if I can go on a side story real quick.
Yes, please do.
So I went to Ohio University.
Oh, in Athens.
In Athens, not Greece. Athens.
The one.
Yeah, Athens, Ohio. They also call that school the Harvard on the Hocking, by the way.
Do they?
Yeah. The Hocking.
When I went to school, they call it the Harvard of the skies, but that's an easy claim to make when you're the only school that focuses solely on aviation.
Right.
As all of my friends who didn't go to that school frequently tell me, and they are right to do so.
Yeah. Harvard on the Hocking. Yeah. And it was funny, some of my classes, right, they knew what your major was or whatever. And it's like, aviation?
All right.
We teach aviation here? There's only in the whole program, 60, 70 kids, right? Yeah. So, but anyway, so as a student, I worked in the Avionics Engineering Center.
Wow, okay. Okay.
And the Avionics Engineering Center was comprised of electrical engineering and computer science as a master's program. But I worked in the hangar, helping take care of the airplanes and, sweeping the floor and polishing a DC-3. Spent a lot of time polishing a DC-3.
They need a lot of polishing.
Yeah.
There's a lot to polish on a DC-3.
And anyway, I learned a lot in that role, on maintenance stuff, and got to fly some of the airplanes. So, it was great. But Ohio University was part of the capstone project of the initial ADSB,
it was,
implementation and data collection.
Wow. Okay.
They actually went to Alaska, participated in that. Went to Cape Canaveral and did some testing with the Air Force and NASA on ADSB and Honeywell and everybody that was involved. I remember I was a student there, and a box showed up one day.
Yeah,
it had an antenna in it from the United States Air Force.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah, and my job was to climb up on top of our King Air and install the antenna.
That was, as a student, you were punching holes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. So it was a great learning experience. I'm up on top of the King Air, sanding all the paint off and, taping off everything. And we put this antenna on top of the King Air, and we didn't know what it was. Like, just another antenna. Because King Air had all kinds of antennas around it or on it. And that was for the ADSB test.
Okay.
So, it's kind of funny. I was involved with the ADSB testing on some level and knew what it was before anybody else really knew that this was in 2000.
Right.
When it was still being developed. Because the Air Force had been using a similar, and NASA had been using similar technology for a while.
Okay.
And so that was coming to the civilian side, and the FAA Capstone project is, how are we going to implement this?
Yeah.
What do the ground stations look like? How does all this work? So fast forward to 2020, it's ready for, go live.
Right.
And so 2020 hits, and if you want to fly, around Chicago, you've got to have ADSB, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any airplane with an electrical system was required to equip to operate in certain airspace. So, as pilots, very skeptical of, well, the government wants to track it. They're going to know everything I'm doing.
Right.
And, but,
Yeah.
I've got it on my airplane. It's a good thing. It's a great safety feature. It really is.
I took a sabbatical from flying, not because I wanted to, but just money and where I was geographically. I was in the border, and it was so hot down in Laredo, Texas. It's like, I'm going to be flying on 172, and he's pouring sweat. I'm a bigger guy. And, Department of Homeland Security is going to think I'm doing something wonky anyway. Be like, why is this guy cruising around the ADIZ? What the heck's going on here? And so I took a sabbatical, and I showed up like every older person does for my check ride or biannual when I got here, which at that point was more like a 4-annual. And the young gentleman was like, "What the hell is all that?" And I had my my sectional, and it smelled good, and just you go, no, dum. And I got 4-flight now and a Sentry, and I do shut it off from time to time because I want to feel like if it breaks, I could still fly the plane. But I do love the situational awareness. But anyways,
so that was the intended purpose. It was supposed to benefit everybody. When you install this, and to be honest, it has. It's become a great situational awareness tool because now when ATC says, "Hey, you've got a whatever at 10 o'clock," 1,000 feet below you, you can look at your iPad, or if you have something on your panel. Okay, there it is. It's moving this direction. Okay, I see it. Right. It's another tool pilots can use to enhance situational awareness. And and then you talk to controllers, and they're like, "Well, we don't know if you have ADS-B or not. We don't care. We turn that off on our screen so it clutters it up, right?
Right.
So, but it's there. The technology is there for a reason.
Yeah.
And it has enhanced some of the approaches. Performance-based approaches.
Right.
That way ATC can get airplanes closer together.
Right.
In certain circumstances, and it's just another tool in the toolbox, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you get some data with it.
Right.
You get the FISB weather.
Right.
There's other data information that's being sent to ATC about the aircraft. And obviously we've got FlightAware, and we've got all these other applications that pilots can use or family members can use to know what's going on.
Right.
There's even games. I've got one on my phone right now called Sky Cards.
Oh, I have not heard of Sky Cards.
Sky Cards.
Sky Cards. Okay.
It's kind of like Pokemon Go for airplane geeks. And my brother showed it to me. I didn't even know about it until just a few weeks ago. He's like, "You got to get Sky Cards." I'm like, "What?
Is he a pilot too?"
No.
Oh, perfect. Look at that.
No. And it's literally like flight radar.
Yeah.
And it's within like a 50-mile radius of wherever you're at. And there's an airplane.
Oh my God.
There's an airplane. You tap on it, and you get a card.
Get the heck
in your
out
card
of here.
deck.
Oh my God.
Right. So you get a card in your card deck.
Yeah.
And then you can battle people, right? Like they have, it's airliner week or whatever.
Okay.
And
I'm sold.
In different categories, and it's just a whole thing. And I don't get too much into it, but it is kind of neat. Like, oh man, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, let's check that out.
Yeah. So ADS-B, right?
Right.
ADS-B exchange, the global ADS-B data stuff. And I'll get into this use of ADS-B because this is where it benefits airports.
Right.
So there are a few vendors out there. I just name a couple: Vert Tower, Airport Data Monitoring, and there's 1200.aero, and there's a couple others, but there's the one that's probably most well known. And what they provide to airports is analytics of usage of the airport.
Right.
And Chicago Exec uses,
use it. Yep.
You use one of those vendors.
my
home airport uses one.
Yeah. We use it geofencing, visibility of the ground, stuff like that. Yeah.
Because the tower doesn't always capture where the airplanes might go after they land. Right.
Well, and I'll say too, on my part, and I've never been able to crack this nut, but they're between, WingX, FlightAware, Vert Tower, OpsNet data, I can see up to a 40,000 operation swing.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. Between the data sources.
Yeah.
And so, it is something where, to your point, to me, it's almost like you have to have multiple systems, even to figure out maybe what the picture looks
Yeah.
like. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, especially for smaller airports, also non-towered airports, right?
Sure.
Because the grant process is competitive.
Right.
And we are seeing, and this is from airports coming to AOPA, hey, we need help,
Yeah.
is saying, hey, the FAA wants to narrow my taxiway.
Right.
Or they want to,
I've had that same
yeah,
discussion.
they want to shorten my runway, or they want to
Yep.
narrow the runway, or whatever,
Right.
what they call airport sizing, which
Mhm.
I get the thought process behind it, but is it the right thing to do?
Right.
So we recommend, actually, AOPA, we recommend airports utilize one of these
Yeah.
services to get the full picture of what's happening at your airport.
Right.
A lot of these small airports, they're not staffed full time,
Right.
or maybe even part time.
Right.
They can be volunteer. You got one guy that cuts the grass, right?
Right.
To be able to show not only the FAA but that local community of, hey, this
Right.
is a busy airport
Right.
for our community, and here's
Right.
who's coming in, here's who's coming and going, or what are they flying in, right?
Right.
What times of day, and these track all of that to some accuracy, at least to be able to tell a story.
And to your point, we absolutely use the data to do that.
Yes.
Tell the story, which just literally 2 nights ago I was at our noise meeting, and a figure like 97.7% of our traffic happens between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Yep.
The only way for me to derive that data
Mhm.
source is from this.
Yep. So this use of the data is one thing that AOPA, we recommend airports. Brookings, I think it was Brookings, South Dakota. They had a flight school open.
Back to
in
South
Brookings.
Dakota.
Back to South Dakota.
Again, the meat capital
Yeah.
of the world.
South Dakota. They actually have a very good aviation system in South Dakota.
I love that. Yeah.
But I think it was Brookings.
The only airport that always seems to have some issues is it Sioux City? And it's like always with their
Sioux
139. Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
And it's more like the 139 certificate.
Yes. Yeah.
I think they squared that away. I shouldn't just say it now. I think it was over the last 5 years. But I always would read articles like, we're going to take away your certificate.
Yeah.
But that's not really so much as, like you said, relationship-wise, it's
Right.
pretty good with everyone.
Oh, yeah. But so this airport, I think it was Brookings, like I might be off on that, but the flight school opened up and their traffic increased. What happens when traffic increases? The neighborhood starts calling. There's airplanes over my house.
Uh-huh.
Where are these airplanes coming from?
Right.
Yep.
So
the panic calls start, and that's when everybody starts asking questions. Well, what's going on?
Right.
Are they actually are they legitimate noise complaints? Right.
Right.
And we recommended, hey, Vertower or these other these other services, they can help you determine what's a legitimate noise complaint, what's not.
Right.
Is there a trend?
Right.
Are the flight schools maybe flying bigger patterns? What's happening times a day? To not tell the flight school to go away.
Right.
But hey, let's look at your operations and maybe shifting 30 minutes.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I think that's. It's an important story to tell, and the data tells that narrative. very well. But I would sell as an airport operator, because, I would say I got a lot of flack and a lot of crap for supporting, but I think the right thing to do is to support what you guys have it. And we don't agree 100% on it.
Right.
And I said too, I was like, I am under the thought process that things change, and I'm not necessarily saying ADSB shouldn't be used for fees. Where I really get to that is I don't think it's an adequate data source to do that. And as an airport operator, I would feel that it is inappropriate to use it to charge someone to land at the airport on that data source alone. I would say it has to be augmented with, some other for like a camera system like Vector does. But anyways, what I thought you put forward was very logical and sound, and I got behind the messaging that that you're not opposed to things like landing fees, but I think on our part, on the airport side to it, why not be transparent like you want? And that I will say on my side of the fence, I don't get down with that logic where it's like, no, we just have to combat it, because I want to see these resources stay. And I think if you are putting in fees on your airport, it should be transparent for that. Now, I'll say, auditing and all the funds that are used at the airport, no, I wouldn't be in that headspace, but purely like in a landing fee scenario. But I think that's, again, where your mission and ours, maybe it's not, we're not exactly 100% there, but I'm not there at all. Like some of my peers who've given me a lot of shit, I'll just be honest. I could swear it's my podcast. It's giving me a lot of shit about supporting this. But, again, what are we doing here? The mission at the end of the day is to protect the asset and the resource. Right?
Yeah, and I'll say this about landing fees. So, and I think the whole conversation between the uses of ADSB, right, that's in one box.
Yeah.
The fee conversation is something else.
Yeah.
Because, again, fees, they've been around forever. Landing fees have been around.
Back to Kitty Hawk.
Back to Kitty Hawk, right? Let's go back.
Way back.
Way back. Ramp fees, landing fees, whatever you want to call it. Landing fees are separate than ramp fees, right? Ramp fees are generally charged by an FBO, you know.
People get creative with the
there's a lot of creativity happening.
Facility
in
charge.
And habitat fees.
It's a habitat management.
Like, I didn't see a duck pond out back. Like, what is a habitat fee? Cookie fee.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, if it's like an Otis Spunkmeyer, though, I mean, there probably needs to be a fee on that. If you're just giving me like a Nilla wafer, come on. What are you doing here?
Yeah. But, landing fees, and trust me, we have done a lot of research on this. We're just not pulling out our pockets and saying fees are bad. That's not what we're saying.
Right.
And going back to your point, transparent. Well, first of all, justify the fee.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
That's fair.
Justify it.
Yeah.
Say, we're, you know what, guys?
Right.
This runway's got to get rehabbed or restriped, or we've got a maintenance plan that, and costs are just, trust me, we know.
Right.
Owning an airplane, it has not gotten cheaper in the last 10 years.
No. No, it hasn't.
Costs and everything have gone up, and try, the housing market.
Right.
Everything. It's not, aviation has not been immune to, what's been happening across the country on everything. So first of all, justify the fee. We've run into airports where they're putting in landing fees, not to augment infrastructure, but to keep traffic away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
100%.
Right. And they're put in these menial fees thinking, well, maybe the flight school will come here if we do that. Or, that's not what a landing fee should be used for.
Right.
And I think there's agreement across all the associations that is not the correct use of a landing fee.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, I think where, AOPA's part in this is being, I'm very fortunate in my role right now that, the community is supportive of the airport. The board of directors I report to are very supportive of the airport, but that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. And if the airport manager equivalent role, whatever name you want to put behind that position, is reporting to a governing structure that is telling them we want less of that.
Right.
They can't necessarily advocate and say, no, it's a it's a bad idea to do this fee. You know what I mean?
And, public use airport.
Right.
Right. It's a federally funded, publicly owned public use airport.
Right.
Airports should be creative in how they're engaging with the public on that, right? Not just the pilot community, but do you do an open house? Do you invite the public to the airport to show them what's going on, to get that extra support?
Right.
Because community support of an airport might mean some more revenue, or funding from that local unit of government to fund the airport. It's unfortunate that some airports think landing fees are the low-hanging fruit to fund something.
Right.
And, I've talked to a lot of airports and airport managers on this. It's like, hey, you have landing fees. Tell me how much you're making every year off landing fees. Right. Kind of give me the ballpark. And, one airport manager said, we only charge landing fees to the, heavy guys, 12.5 and above or whatever. And, we make $30,000 a year. This is from a really busy airport.
Yeah, that's peanuts. That's even worse than the $800,000 back in Ohio for all the airports.
$30,000 from landing fees specifically. And he told me, he said, you know what? He said that money from landing fees goes right back into an account where we crack seal. That's all we do with that money. Yeah. Because they've got pretty big runways. Yeah. 2 of them. And he said it's crack sealing every year.
And I'll say on our end, at our airport, we do crack sealing every year, and we're probably talking $300,000 to do the airport. So $30,000
is nothing. Right. They're recovering a little bit of that.
A little bit, yeah.
But big picture, that airport's going to survive without that landing fee. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And we're not telling airports to get rid of landing fees. That's not at all what we're saying. Right. But it's an airport decision based on who your users are. Right. There's an airport in Ohio, for example, strictly GA. They get a little bit of corporate traffic. And we were not alerted to this when it happened. We actually just found out about it a few weeks ago because people started getting bills. Yeah. Oh, wow. So they got a bill. Yeah. Or it's already in place. Oh, yeah. It's already in place. Oh, wow. Yeah. And nobody, it's one of those where, it's Dayton Wright Brothers Airport. Yeah. Dayton, Ohio. So Dayton International and Dayton Wright Brothers, same airport authority. Oh, okay. And they just did a blanket landing fee for both. Both. Oh, wow. Now, the way I do have some questions about it, and I plan on engaging with the airport authority. Yeah. Because the way it's written, it seems it's only for commercial transients operators. Okay, so if you're flying like 91, not for hire. Right. So I think, and some of the folks that have been billed, I'm kind of getting in the weeds here, and this goes back to the pitfalls of ADSB billing. Right. Is I can register my aircraft in an LLC. Right. Yeah. Or a corporation, or whatever, or a trust for that matter. Yeah. And I think the filter might not be working. Oh, okay. So like a flying club, for example, is in the true sense, a nonprofit entity. Right. They're getting billed for using this airport. Okay. And the thought, at least my initial thought is, well, something is not connecting. I never thought about it in that perspective of renting an aircraft. Right. That's an interest. Yeah. So if they're just seeing the name of the registration, it's got Inc. or LLC or whatever behind it, they're getting the bill. Yeah. And whether it's Part 91, non-commercial or not. So I've got some questions about that one that I'm going to dig into. But it's odd that it's because this was put in January of 24, I think. Right. So it's been there for a while. Yeah. And so there's kind of a missing link there of what's really happening.
So if you would say like an airport, because I know I don't want to get, you have to get in your Southwest plane at some point here.
I'm good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
So if you were an airport that has a frayed relationship with AOPA, you're a common sense guy and you seem like you have a practical approach to things. What's your recommendation to an airport that is saying, I'm at my wit's end, I don't even want to talk to them because, quite honestly, I'm hearing that.
There's some out there.
There is.
There's some out there.
And I should say it's not everybody. It's not.
Yeah.
But the ones that it is, you know, a couple. It's kind of, you know, I was surprised, and I said this to him, and I think it might have been you or maybe somebody else on the team. We were the only one. I heard somebody else because I said this to another airport. They're like, we went there, but either we were the only one or a handful of airports that actually came and visited your headquarters, and you were kind enough to show us around. Beautiful headquarters there in Frederick, Maryland. Because I wanted to have a better relationship with you guys. I mean, we have maybe different opinions here and there, but we have the same common goal of wanting people to have access and be able to fly. So what are your thoughts and recommendations to an airport that has said, I'm disengaged? Because we see that a little bit right now on a national level and how great that's working out with not getting a funding bill passed when people decide to stop talking to one another.
Yeah. So here's my recommendation. Just have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, find out what the true intent of number one, you know, the bill we have federally, obviously, you know, we want to protect the ADSB data and what it's being used for, right? Because you boil all of this down, and this is 100% true, our concern, and we are getting calls from, you know, I get calls from pilots directly, members, and even airports. And our pilot information center does too. Hey, can I turn my ADSB off to avoid this, right? Or I'm going to uninstall my equipment.
Right.
Now, keep in mind that since 2020, and we get this data from, you know, manufacturers, et cetera, $600 million have been put into equipping aircraft with ADSB.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
You know, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. And even more to come, right? Because I think that's with the bill that's passing.
Yeah,
through,
the
right?
Rotor Act is going to mandate ADSB in.
Yeah.
Now, luckily for Part 91 non-commercial ops, you can have a portable device is going to suffice that requirement.
Like a Sentry?
Like a Sentry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we want it to be TSO equipment, et cetera. And with Mosaic now happening, you know, aircraft certification is going to change dramatically. So there's going to be costs coming down on that end, but safety is the biggest concern.
Yeah.
Right. And we want aircraft and pilots to participate with ADSB because then it benefits everybody, whether you're in rural airspace or not. It's a benefit to the safety of the aviation system and the NAS. So that's our top line priority. It's a safety thing. So when you have airports that are promoting fees based on ADSB, there's pilots that want to take the stuff out.
Yeah.
And not just the fees, it's the enforcement. We've seen FAA enforcement actions open up based solely on ADSB data. And that's not right either because of the discrepancies in the data, as you pointed out.
Absolutely.
It's not perfect by any stretch.
It's not.
Especially at lower altitudes, you know, if you're in certain areas, you know, if you're not picking up a ground station, it's not working.
Yeah. I mean, it just visually, right? Like it tells you where an aircraft is. And, you know, I know now, I'm like, okay, if it's telling me it's here, I'm scanning here.
Correct.
You know, you have a good, it seems like mile as it's tracked.
Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not real time. You know, it lags a little bit. You know, it is getting better, but so it's not a perfect system. So safety is the number one priority. Also, you know, these other uses, we are seeing cases where aircraft owner or pilots, I should say, are being sued for legal overflights.
Right.
This is happening in Washington State.
Yeah.
This is happening in Alabama, where landowners, and a couple of them are attorneys that have nothing better to do, I guess, than, you know, do this.
You can sue anybody.
You can sue anybody for anything, right? Regardless of what the official law is. And they're junk lawsuits, of course.
Right.
But you still have to defend yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You
Time
know,
and resources.
It's still a problem. You know, noise complaints. I know Cincinnati Lunken Airport. There's a neighborhood, a couple of residents in a neighborhood just to the east side of the airport that are threatening to sue the flight schools.
Yeah.
You know, and they're getting data from the ADSB, which is, you know, public. So it's bigger than the fees.
Yeah.
And I think if maybe not all airport managers look at all those other
Right.
fringe things that are occurring around ADSB data and the usage, fees, and I won't say the fees, it's the billing of ADSB data,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It's the billing based on ADSB data. Because if you do a low approach,
Right.
maybe whatever system you're using picks it up as a landing, even though you didn't land. So the pilot gets a bill for $7, $10, $20, whatever it is. Well, that's going to tick them off,
Right.
right? So I didn't land there. I just shot an approach.
Right.
And then the pilot has to go through this whole process of calling the airport or calling, the whoever sent the bill.
Right.
And they don't like that.
Yeah.
And what does that do? It gives the airport a bad name.
Right.
Right? So instances like that. Also, on the safety side, it could affect pilot decision making.
Yeah.
Because if you're shooting an instrument approach, weather's bad, and the only instrument approach is into Chicago exec, just using as an example.
Yeah.
And it's in the back of your head that, man, they're going to charge me $30 to land there.
Yep.
I don't want to do that. And trust me,
Right.
$30 doesn't sound like a lot.
Right.
But when you're a cheap pilot,
Right.
it's in the back of your mind.
Right.
You're thinking, I'm going to scud rut down to
Right. Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah. Head to Gary.
Head to Gary. Go wherever
Gary.
there's not a
Right.
fee.
Yeah.
That you're going to hit with a fee.
Right.
It's in the back of your mind.
Right. I'll just say a disclaimer: Chicago Executive Airport doesn't have landing in this example. Please use us.
Right. So there's all these different scenarios, and they're hypothetical.
Yeah.
But could they really happen? Yeah.
Yeah. No, so when you said have a conversation, you think the best spot for that is your counterparts, the regional managers?
Yeah, come to us. Come to us. We are more than reasonable people to talk to.
Right.
And,
I found that myself.
And so, for example, I'll just give
You'll
you a
even
little
talk
bit.
to me in a car in a parking
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah. It's real shady.
Yeah,
part
shady,
of town, too.
shady part here.
Shady part of town. If you would ask me what I've been doing tonight,
Yeah, right.
should have
Hang
stayed
out
in
in the car
Minnesota.
for a couple hours.
Should have stayed in Minnesota. Come talk to us. We have, across the board with the regional managers, Tom Chandler in Texas, he flew medevac. He was a medevac.
He was an airport manager too. Right?
He was an airport manager. So he, I was on an airport authority at a small airport.
Yeah.
That understands funding
Which
problems.
airport? Can I ask? What?
James A. Rhodes in
James A. Rhodes.
Jackson County, Ohio.
Jackson County. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
JRO.
JRO.
J. Rhodes.
Oh, I like that. JRO.
I got to name that actually.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. But anyway, and Stacy has very good airport management experience. Sean Collins up in Maine. He worked in our pilot information center. He managed our PIC, so he's very familiar with all the airport problems that come in the pilot perspective.
Yeah.
Nikki Britton, who's in California now, did a lot of work locally with pilots at the Reed Hillview Airport and San Martin County.
That's where I first started to learn to fly.
Yeah.
Reed Hillview.
Yeah. So, we have not only a very diverse group of individuals with life experiences outside of AOPA.
Yeah.
Our new VP, Leon Jackler, he was our airport support network volunteer at College Park, Maryland.
Oh, the oldest airport?
The oldest airport in the
Well,
country.
always a I did a whole
Continuously
podcast on it.
operating.
Yes.
Yes.
I did a whole thing. I agree. I think it's the
Yeah.
oldest. I think
Yeah.
it is. But, yeah.
So, he with all the regulations after 9/11 that came out, so we have the airport world experience.
Yeah.
Not all of us may have the CM after our name or AAA.
Well,
But
I have a lot of friends.
to do that. I'm not lying at all. We have discussed this internally that, hey, it would be great for us to go through that program.
Yeah, I would.
In fact, Brad Schuster, who's our Pacific Northwest, he did.
Well, if AAA's listening, that should, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't have to just be an airport professional.
Correct.
I think, is the CM open to everyone? Or is it just the AAE that's restricted?
It's just the AAE that's restricted, I think.
Yeah.
But the CM, I think, as long as you're a AAE member, you can get that.
Right.
But it would be good education for our part,
Yeah.
Well,
I
the
think
CM is very generalized stuff. But,
Well, I think in reverse, on our part, right, understanding too, and I think airports can do a better job of understanding that perspective of it, because, I'll be the first to think there's cantankerous people on both sides, but that is a small percentage.
It is a small percentage, and the ADSB started out, a year and a half ago, the
Yeah.
rumblings, they're billing for it would be ADSB, and there's a Vector, the company out there that's kind of marketing to airports, and it's like
Yeah.
and AAAE has said, in a statement that, well, hey, if you take away this efficient product,
Right.
the fees will go up.
Right. Right.
Okay, well, let's do some research.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we looked back at some airports that
Yeah.
had landing fees before,
Yeah.
what the fees were before,
Yep.
and what they were after.
Yeah.
There were increases.
Yeah. Is it?
Wait a second here. You're telling me ADSB is more efficient, but you
Right.
made it more expensive, or you put in new fees
Right.
because ADSB is more efficient.
Right.
So, okay, yeah, there's a little, we can argue these points,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, AOPA, we need airports to be sustainable.
Yep.
We need them to exist.
Yeah.
But the airports also need pilots.
Absolutely.
And you need guys renting hangars.
It's symbiotic.
It's a two-way street. And in my region, with all the airports I interact with, I haven't met a bad airport manager.
Yeah.
I've met a few that are like,
Really, I've met a few. I'm kidding.
I've met a few that kind of question
Yeah.
what our intentions are with
Yeah.
some things, but sit down, have a conversation, and be like, okay, hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Like the safety stuff.
No. Yeah.
Or heck, I didn't know people were suing pilots for flying over their property, So there's a bigger conversation behind this ADSB stuff.
Well, and I think there's a commonality too, because literally 2 nights ago, I was threatened multiple times to sue the airport.
Yeah.
For noise. I mean,
Yeah.
and then after the fact, calmer heads typically prevail, and I jest about airport managers, but
Yeah.
no, I think I love the olive branch approach because especially if you had a negative experience, or because quite honestly, a lot of times, right, the most vocal people in any scenario are the ones that are upset with something.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the other ones just go about their business, and so it becomes this kind of narrative of, you're always complaining, you're never happy, you're always complaining.
And I don't want to interrupt you.
Go ahead, please.
But it's
I was
in my
complaining
mind.
there.
You. What we do a lot,
Yeah.
and I'm talking airport issues that we come across, leases or whatever,
Yeah.
rules and regulations, whatever it is.
Right.
AOPA, we side with the airport a lot.
You have them. I'll say in our example, the times
With the runway deal, yeah.
Yeah, we have had several, but also too, in a respectful way, where I felt like I felt like everybody was kind of like, okay, everybody kind of understood different I understood a little different perspective. And I think there is a pathway, and there's a way to make things better. So I did have an airport director ask me this, because they asked that you were going to be on, and I'm going to say how they said it, but then I'm going to add in my sprinkle here.
Okay.
Because I don't completely understand it. But they said that ask AOPA why they will fight air traffic control modernization. But I don't think in the current environment with what has been showcased, you're supportive.
Oh, we're very supportive
Right.
of modernization.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing in past examples was equal access, and that me and you were flying in our planes, we don't lose ability. But
so people confused, and I'm
Okay,
being
please.
very general,
Yeah.
of privatization
Yes.
versus the modernization, and go back to the 2016, 2017, when they wanted to privatize.
Right.
And there was actually a bill introduced to do it.
But everybody opposed that.
Everybody
Airports
opposed
it.
Yeah, no, we are not opposed at all to modernization. In fact, we have been very vocal that we're supporting what Secretary Duffy is proposing.
Yeah. Are you part of the Modern Skies Coalition?
Yes.
You are.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So that's what I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And no offense to this person. When they said it to me, I was at the CN Tower in Toronto, and I just come off a World Series game.
Yeah.
I was happy. But I was like, I don't think that. I was like, I'll ask, but in all honesty, I was like, I don't think they. I think we all opposed what was before.
Right.
And I thought we were all kind of aligned right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're totally behind what is being proposed with modernization and even remote towers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's an interesting technology.
It really is. And what Leesburg kind of did when they were prototyping and testing that one, the pilots there wanted to stay.
So that did end up leaving, though.
It did leave. Back. I think there are plans for a tower at Leesburg.
So they're going to put in an actual
I think so I think they're going to put in a brick and mortar facility. Now, could that change? I think I just saw that in maybe a social media post from somebody at Leesburg. Because there's, all these different aviation groups. But
how would you feel about, because I don't know where my own headspace on that would be, would you feel that is equal, a brick and mortar facility, somebody there? I feel like that probably has an advantage, but if you can't have that, the virtual, or do you think they're pretty equal?
From what I've seen with these remote towers and the technology that's implemented, I mean, these cameras are better than human eyes.
Is that really? Okay.
Not taking away anything from our ATC guys. They're great.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a combination of the two.
Sure.
Maybe it's controller assist with this new technology. But I think there's a place for each, right? Do
you think that was more, because I saw Secretary Buttigieg when he testified on that. I know they were asking him what I thought were reasonable questions about it. Was it more of a union thing, you think, why it went away? Or is it the technology that they didn't think it was there? Or what?
I think
it made sense.
I think the program got defunded.
Just, it wasn't worth it to keep it going.
I think, the funding for the program ended and it wasn't renewed. I think that, that's what I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
I for some reason, that's the reason I'm thinking it just wasn't funded. Yeah. And now with refunding some programs around modernization, I think that's going to come back. But I mean, just like people don't want to get on an airliner with no pilots.
Right.
Absolutely. Do we as pilots trust the machine?
Right.
Right. So I think it's that same conversation. So I think it's a hybrid.
That makes sense.
I think it's a hybrid. At least in the near future, because AI and all this stuff is just getting crazy. It's amazing Bob Ross can paint some of the things he's painting with AI.
So I've had this thought more lately because I've been a big fan of like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But this is a Jeff Miller thought. This is not Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he's very smart and Jeff Miller is not. But they're like, it learns from humans, right?
Yeah.
And I have felt like over the last month, comparative to the last, I think, 6 or so that I've used it, that it is learning from us to be lazy, because the product I'm getting back is like, it looks like it was half-assed.
It's like
whatever. Come talk to me tomorrow.
So, it's interesting because my day-to-day, I have a lot of research in especially with the legislative stuff and, regulations that are coming out. It's a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I sit in the office chair and read through, 20 pages of a legislative thing with all the changes and, making notes and all this stuff. And it's like, you know what? I wonder,
right.
And not that I'm being lazy.
Right.
It's that I want to be efficient about it.
Oh, yes.
And I want to be able to learn, what this can do, what it can't do, what the appropriate uses are for AI. So, put in the link to the bill and all the changes. I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, tell me what the major changes are in this bill.
Yes.
And if you can, tell me how this is going to impact XYZ.
Yeah.
So it's not being lazy. Read this to me. It's using all those resources that are out there of, hey, here's a list of other things to think about.
Absolutely. It's funny. So many things that I use it in now, I do the exact same thing. And I tell people, because it's funny, there's like this faux pas, like, if you say you use it, you're cheating. I'm like, no, this isn't college.
Right.
Like, you still have to direct it and tell it what to do. But if I can be more efficient with my time and reduce really clerical work.
Correct.
From an hour, a lot of the stuff, the same thing, legislatively that we're working on, I can say, take all my opinions and thoughts, make it look nice and neat. And one of the things I've always struggled with in my life is I'm not an English professor. And so I'm like, make it look nice, tell me what I'm going to write it out, make it look decent.
Yeah.
But rather than me going back and, maybe checking with someone in the office or something, like, I can feel comfortable with it It has done me dirty though in the past. I had mentioned it on this podcast. I did an episode on the B-52, and I was compiling all my notes. It was just a narrative when I was working on it myself, and I was putting it together. And so all the stuff in there, all the incidences, I said, take everything that we're putting together and make it in a nice chronological timeline, right?
Yeah.
So stuck in the middle of it was a missing nuclear weapon in Lake Superior of a B-52 crash. And I'm like reading it and looking at it. I'm like, I'm from Michigan. I was like, is this accurate? Is there a nuclear warhead? And then I'm like, no, it's not. It's you're right, Jeff. It's not. I'm like, what are you just trying to set me up for failure, ChatGPT? So,
yeah, you can definitely get down a rabbit hole with ChatGPT.
you can.
And so another funny use of so I was having lunch with a state representative of Minnesota a couple days ago, and he wants to introduce actually the Minnesota Council of Airports.
Okay.
And AOPA and the local pilot association, Seaplane Group and Pilot Group want to introduce a bill for a license plate, aviation themed license plate.
That's a nice thought.
Yeah, I mean it's cool to do, and some of the revenues from that will go back into the aeronautics fund, maybe to fund certain programs.
Like 33rd in flight.
Yeah,
not first in flight.
Yeah, Minnesota's got 10,000 lakes.
I love that idea though.
And,
so money back into the system from the plate.
From the license plates, right?
That's great. Yeah.
And we're floating around ideas of what to do with that money. So we're talking to DOT on, hey, what programs would you like to fund? Is there educational things the DOT would like to do, outreach programs? So, we're still kind of getting some things ironed out. But the rep was like, well, what do you think this should look like? Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm not an artist. Right? So, ChatGPT, right? Hey, ChatGPT, I'd like a Minnesota license plate that depicts, a lake scene. Yeah, that's very Minnesotan.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's put a seaplane on it.
Perfect.
So I'm bringing it up while we're chatting.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Because it's just so cool that I wanted to make sure I show you. If we were recording this, I'd show everybody.
Oh, you know what? You mind if I take a picture of it?
Yeah. So look at that.
Put it on the thing. Wow, that actually came out really beautiful.
Yeah, so we've got a nice, looks like a Cessna 180, 185 on some floats.
Yeah, I'll do one of these. I'll do a selfie in the car.
Yeah. There we go. I'll hold up my ChatGPT artist,
Perfect. All right.
And so it came out really cool. And
that does look really nice.
It's really nice,
yeah,
right? And,
beautiful.
Now, we're talking about, should we put a
That
Cirrus
is Bob
on
Rossi, though.
Yeah, it's a little Bob. Yeah.
Put a
in the
happy
style of
plate
Bob
over
Ross,
here.
right? In the style of Bob Ross. But we're also talking, should there be maybe a Cirrus? Because, Cirrus is Duluth.
Right.
So we're throwing around some ideas. And, so hopefully in Minnesota, in a few months, they're going to have an aviation-themed license plate. And that revenue, again, revenue, go back into the airport system or aviation system.
Yeah.
But again,
I'm going to say this, though. How cool would it be if your design, if you see it driving around on car? It would blow my mind.
Oh, yeah. It'd blow my mind, too.
Yeah, to see your design.
This is like when you talk to your teacher, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Right.
Well, I designed a license plate.
So you're going to prison.
Yeah, I'm going to prison.
Right. That's a big leap from the Ohio Highway Patrol.
Yeah. So, there's all kind, and again, this takes me back to airports and funding locally.
Yeah.
Well, okay, landing fees.
Yeah.
Well, what else can you do that might generate that
Such an
money?
abstract thought, but a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Get a little bit creative.
Yeah.
There's airports doing really cool things that are, food truck fly-ins or, third Thursday, barbecue or, EAA chapters are doing good things.
Yeah.
What are some other potential revenue sources where, and I will say this about the aviation community, we're pretty generous too.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
We love to complain. So I'll be the first one.
Biggest hearts, though.
Yeah,
I've ever seen.
The EA Young Eagles program, huge. So I think if you get the pilots together, and if there is a need at that airport, hey, let's get creative on this.
Yeah.
And what needs funded before you go hitting the landing fees. Let's think outside the box. What are your intentions with the landing fees?
Right.
And here's the other big barrier, and we've seen this at the airports in Florida, last year, communication.
Yeah.
Right.
It's huge. It's huge.
I think some of the pilots there took it as they're going to shove it down our throats.
Yep.
We don't have any say in it.
Yep.
And that starts the bad conversation.
Oh, yeah. And I think I would say, too, is as an airport manager, I'm not going to get on my soapbox and be like,
Yeah.
I have been guilty of bad communication.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's an oversight. Sometimes you're like, I just don't. And I have found, though, through my career, if you are apprehensive, you may also then have to say to yourself, is this the right decision? Because if you're apprehensive to have the conversation, I don't shy. We are a very expensive airport, probably the most expensive besides the parking garage you and I are sitting in right now. And I don't shy away from it. And I talk about it, and and I think it is the right thing to do. But that didn't come overnight. It took time to feel like if you think it's the right thing to do, then you should feel it's okay to communicate. Right.
Yeah. And I think you and I have had this conversation. I know I've talked to other airport managers because AOPA, we really promote local pilot groups, right? Not EA chapters. That's a whole other thing. But I'm talking like, whether it's an advisory board that gets, stood up, or even like, hey, we're the Chicago Executive Pilot Association, right?
Right.
They do a lot of good things. They're doing safety,
scholarships,
safety. They're doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
But maybe they need to interact with the airport management a little more.
Yeah.
And I was saying, SEPA, but I'm saying some of these groups, maybe their mission should be to not be the complaint department, but interact with airport management, understand what the needs of the airport are.
Yeah.
Because pilots, when you go through your flight training, you don't learn anything about how an airport operates.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Period. You're right.
You know what the taxiway is for, the runway is for, right?
Yep.
But as far as how that gets there, who pays for it, and who continues to pay for it.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I see it on social media. You've seen it. We've all seen it. Well, the FAA paid for this airport.
Right. Yeah.
And it should, the FAA pays for that.
Right.
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that. It's there's a lot to it because, the FAA will pay for this one time.
Yeah. Right.
They'll pay it for one time in 50 years.
Right.
And guess who gets to maintain it?
Well, and the funny thing, too, is when you were talking about, your time in Athens, beautiful Athens.
Yeah.
When I was at Embry-Riddle and I was going through my program, which my bachelor's degree was aviation management, and when it came to graduation, I remember engineering was hundreds of people, and then airport management was like Jeff Miller, and then Bob Rossi. All right, moving on. And but even in that whole time, I had one course that was about airport management and not about Part 91 or not about aviation marketing or aviation economics. And it is, and I oftentimes, especially when people call from even the outside and they talk to me as an airport manager, and I'm like, I get it. I don't really know how the trains work. I kind of have an idea, maybe, because we're in this orbit that if you have, like in Chicago, if you have a metro station in a suburb, the community probably had to put up the money to build it. I don't know, but I don't know, and that's the thing. And it's hard to expect people to, and it's the same on the other side. There's so much information you have to learn to be a pilot, rightfully so. This is near at the bottom. We're not even there. I think through my pilot training was about signage and stuff, nothing about managing.
No.
And most of the people that use our airport never even know I exist.
Right.
They come in and one in a compliment if it's running efficiently and stuff.
Oh yeah.
They don't have to. But the other part to it too is when you're out there advocating, and that's where I see you and I having a lot of parallels, because a lot of times the pilots aren't the ones advocating.
Correct.
Because most of them, they do their thing. They go in and, like our T-Hanger attendants, I probably know about 5% of them. The other 95% are off doing their thing, and I don't know them. And, again, there's always improvements for communication on my side of that. And I think that there's a real message to be heard there from everybody that, understanding, and too, like to your point, especially, and that goes both ways on the airport management side, not always going in with, okay, you messed up, so here's your whatever violation, or, some people that I have gotten to know at the airports that I've worked at, we'll just have, like you and I are having now, a regular conversation, and then if there is an issue, if there is something to talk about, you're not just starting there. You're not jumping off from the issue.
Correct. And a lot of times, and I've seen this, is somebody will hear something like, oh, they're gonna start tearing hangars down.
Yeah, right.
And then it gets transferred down the line, and then at the end of the line, it's like they're closing the airport.
Right. Like telephone.
Right. Yeah. We've all played that game.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So our job is AOPA, because then we get the phone call
right
at the end of that line.
Right.
Because,
yeah,
we get this call. They're closing this airport.
Right.
What? That airport's like, no, they're not closing that airport.
Right.
Let me call the airport manager.
Yeah, right.
He's like, we're tearing down this old hangar that's been, condemned, and, we're going to sign a new lease and build. And they're going to build T hangars. They're going to build more hangars. So it gets from that,
yes,
to closing the airport. And AOPA, me and my coworkers are put in this position of finding out the true story.
Yeah.
And we're not faulting our members at all, because, airports are great places for rumors,
as the prop turns.
And I'm guilty of it.
I am
at
too.
my airport. Like, man,
it gets salacious sometimes. You're like, why, really?
And let me tell you about my airport. Small county airport.
Yeah.
My dad is the airport manager.
Wait, are you being serious?
I'm serious, 100%. Yeah. He's the chief grass mower.
Oh, love that.
And it's just a small county airport. There's 30-some based airplanes.
Yeah.
Pretty quiet.
And he's still doing the RC.
Oh yeah,
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 good for him.
Yeah. So he retired from his career, and he's not a pilot, but he helped build the airplane, and he's got his repairman certificate, so helps in the inspections and all that. And the opportunity came up. Hey, we're looking for somebody to be the airport manager.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Hey.
Right.
So there he is. So there's all kinds of rumors that get started at our airport.
I bet there is. I bet there is.
But airports are fun too, right? Because there's nowhere else that stuff can happen.
Oh no.
And it's the airport system we have in the United States is like no other.
Oh, absolutely.
So we do need to protect it, and we're involved in I won't call it a battle, but in what's happened at Burke Lakefront in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's not Chicago Megs 2.0. I don't think the mayor's going to go in and bulldoze the airport.
Hopefully we've all learned a lesson.
Yeah, I think the lesson was learned there.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, but the mayor in Cleveland, and this all stems around the Brown Stadium, and where they wanted to build the Brown Stadium was they wanted to close Burke and put the Brown Stadium there, but they went to Brook Park, and there's been a lot of local politics surrounding it. And the Browns can go lose in another new stadium.
Yes.
I'm not shy about that at all.
When you're a fan, you can knock it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Don't worry, we had the Lions, which they're doing all right this year, though.
Yeah. So, Cleveland is positioned to lose that asset.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And it's very unfortunate that the mayor has this very short-sighted vision of what he calls lakefront redevelopment.
Yeah. When
he really needs to focus on developing Burke.
Right.
Because that airport's been neglected for a little while. The businesses based there are like, we'd invest more.
Right.
But we don't know if we're going to be here.
Absolutely.
And you have the mayor saying, well, there's nothing happening at that airport. We need to close it.
Right.
Well, your administration isn't supporting that airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be an entirely different story if they were.
Right.
So, unfortunately, what's happened recently is the mayor has been, his rhetoric has been, I'm going to close this airport. And
right.
And it's very difficult to close a federally obligated airport.
Right.
But he has now gone to Congress, the Ohio congressional delegation, and formally asked for their help to close the airport, which means releasing them from the grant obligations,
right,
and maybe even finding some funding to help offset the cost of closing this thing. By the way, Burke Lakefront Airport is built on a garbage dump.
I have heard this.
And literally, when they go out and do core sampling or bore sampling on the runways, taxiways, or on the property, they have to wear hazmat suits.
Wow, I
Yeah.
had not heard that.
Yeah.
Crazy. They want to put residential on there.
Well, I don't know what he wants to put on it.
Okay. But anything. I wouldn't want to go
whatever.
to Panera Bread there.
I mean, you break ground on that thing, and it's a whole other can of worms. So,
Yeah.
and there's also questions about the deed to the property that we're going to be looking into. Because I think back in the 40s, when it was deeded to the city of Cleveland,
Right.
there's some covenants in there that say it can be one of two things, a trash dump or an airport. And if it ceases to be that, the property reverts back either to the federal government or the state of Ohio.
Wow. It's funny because MIGS had very similar language, only it was a park.
Correct.
It could be an airport or a park. And so when they ran the assessment on the value, I know Mayor Daley was like, oh, it could be a, compartment, blah, blah, whatever.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, that, it's unfortunate because I think Santa Monica is setting a precedent that
and
could be a roadmap.
Correct.
Boulder, Colorado, right?
Yeah, Boulder, all these airports that are very contentious. And, there may be some light for Santa Monica depending on a city council change or whatever, difference, especially with the fires that happened out there, right? And,
Right.
And the emergency response and all that. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, just like Burke. That is, and I'll just say this because it's true. As far as AOPA members based on that airport, how many light GA are hangared at Chicago Exec?
We're probably at about, I'd say 100.
That's a really good number.
Yeah.
Right? You've got, AOPA has grassroots there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Burke Lakefront, as far as I know, other than a flight school and maybe a flying club, we have 0 members that hangar at that airport.
They have T hangars there?
No.
They don't. Okay, so that never developed.
It is nearly, a probably high percentage transient corporate or medevac airport.
Yeah. Important stuff, though,
Very
especially in a
important
large
stuff.
metropolitan area.
And also going back to the UAS conversation,
right?
And eVTOL, it's right next to downtown.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
what better positioning for an airport to have those services than right next to downtown and a few blocks from the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah. I'll say here, it's there's folklore in it, but it's also a sad story because, you don't know what you have until it's gone.
Correct.
A lot of times.
And they are not building airports every day.
Very rarely.
I think the last one that opened, there's been a couple that's small, Gallatin County, Kentucky.
Right.
Which just opened in the last couple of years. And that airport was way behind the need. That was built for the NASCAR racetrack, which they're not racing there anymore.
Right.
So, that airport, it's going to be good to have another airport in that area, obviously, but its intended purpose is not there anymore.
Yeah.
Because takes so long to build an airport.
Yeah.
The other one is Williston, North Dakota.
Yeah.
Which is, I know where it's at because I've been there.
Fair enough.
It's like 12 miles from Wyoming and 12 miles from Canada. It's way up in the northwest corner, and it was built to support the oil field.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I got to go to the grand opening of that airport.
Yeah.
Very heavy presence at that airport.
Makes sense with the oil.
Yeah, made sense, and I think that was one of the quickest airports to be built, greenfield airports.
Yeah.
It took 12 years.
Wow.
Which is still a long time.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
And, they're not building airports every day. Private airports, obviously, AOPA can't control what happens on private property, but, they're closing quite a bit. The RAF is stepping in to help resurrect private airports or even old DNR strips, especially in the backcountry.
Yeah.
But it's a fight to keep these airports open because they become political hot potatoes.
Absolutely.
And in the Burke story, they've been trying to close that airport. I just went back and looked at AOPA news articles back to 1998.
Wow. 1998. I remember it being on, kind of the forefront for a long time and a conversation piece. And again, it's a hard position for an airport director to be in, right? So like, I think ultimately it falls under Cleveland Hopkins, right, the system. But
Yeah, it falls under their port authority system.
yeah, but what we were talking about before, right? The person that hires you is the mayor.
Right.
So even if your heart of hearts, you're like, I want to keep this open. Do you want to keep it open so much you want to keep your job?
Yeah, exactly. And, Signature, for example, they're the FBO at Burke. They have an interest in this. They just invested a lot of money into their facility.
Right.
And now the mayor wants to close it. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, will the mayor be successful? Right. That's what everybody wants to know. I've been getting a lot of calls, emails on this, because we do have members that obviously learn to fly there.
Yeah.
They have an interest in the airport.
Right.
Even in the local region, it's good for flight training because it sits under a Bravo.
Well, and I would also
It's a towered airport
too, probably good for noise, right? A lot of the I would think it's over Lake.
It's over the
Erie,
lake,
right?
Yeah, it sits out in the lake.
Yeah.
There's really no residence around the airport. It's pretty much commercial industrial.
Right.
So there's no noise complaints about the airport. It's this particular mayor has a vision to redevelop the lakeshore, and turn it into a park or into condominiums or into whatever.
Right.
He thinks it is. But is that realistic? Does it make sense?
Right.
And you're not going to replace it.
Right.
And the congressional route, just for example, in the last 30-ish years, there's only been two.
Yeah.
They have both been very unique situations. I think one was in Georgia. I think it was a military installation that just happened to have this airport on it.
Okay.
And they just had to release the grant obligations to close the facility.
Yeah.
But part of that was they built a new airport somewhere else.
Yeah.
And same thing in King County, Missouri. I think it was also maybe a federal project or something that needed to happen. Release the grant obligations to that municipality.
Right.
And they built an airport elsewhere.
Yeah. So I would kind of like a Stapleton.
Correct.
Yeah. But again, it's on my part, and that's what I say to my fellow airport managers. Like, there's warning signs all over the place of this. I was like, but one day it's like Burkefront. When is it your airport?
Yeah.
And
that's the point we're making is if a city can just decide that they don't like their airport, right, because that is the attitude the mayor has. He just doesn't like it. Right. He has not given any evidence that it's harmful to the community or it's a perception thing, right? Which all airports struggle with. He just doesn't like it. Right. So, okay, if you can just go to Congress and they hit the gavel and close an airport, that's bad precedent.
Absolutely. 100%.
Because the FAA, they're not in the business of closing airports. Right. So, we're going to be taking this, obviously, in fact, Monday afternoon, we have a call with probably 30 interested stakeholders, of the airport. Right. And planning on presenting the idea of not just AOPA opposing this, but there needs to be a local effort. Yeah. And that local group, name it whatever you want, Friends of Burke Lakefront Airport or, whatever, to get under an umbrella and fight this locally. Yeah. Right. And when I say fight, I mean educate. Yeah. And try to turn the tide. And sometimes it's a compromise, right? Yeah. To some of the airport property, maybe can there be some public whatever, or change the dynamic of what the airport property is to some extent.
Well, how cool would it be to take what maybe the mayor's vision is and turn it, to your point, into a STEM program or something where people can come and learn to be a part? Because there's really never been a better time to be a part of the industry when you talk about salaries and stuff and getting involved. And you could turn it into something really cool that shows the legacy of the airport minus the dump. Sure. And aviation is, I see it all the time when we bring the students out. They love it. They love to get around the equipment, to talk to people like you. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, instead of how do we get rid of it? How do you make it more accessible?
Correct.
And get people to use it.
And unfortunately, one of the biggest losers in this whole thing could be the Cleveland National Air Show.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, this is one of the oldest air shows in the country. I mean, it goes back to the air races.
They're going to have to go to Buckeye.
Yeah. So and so if the air show goes away, there is no other airport in Northeast Ohio that could support it in the form it's in.
Yeah.
They attract the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels and all the top acts.
Right.
It's a large, big air show.
Yeah.
100,000, visitors for the 2 to 3 days. 100,000.
I mean, that's a successful air show.
Yeah, just the air show itself. Economic impact to Cleveland between $17 and $20 million a year.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Why would? Yeah, that makes sense.
So, it's not going to go to Hopkins.
Right.
That air show is not going to Hopkins. It's not going to go to.
It's not going to Lorraine.
It's not going to Lorraine. It's not going to go to Cuyahoga County.
Yeah.
It will be gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will be gone.
What a loss.
Yeah.
So
we're working with the air show, ICAS, the Air Show Association.
Yeah.
We want it to be the win-win-win.
Yeah.
Almost the impossible thing to happen, right? But a win for the aviation community.
Right.
The mayor wants a win.
Right.
Let's help him out.
Yeah.
And the public.
Right.
Because the airport, where it stands, is part of the community.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Clinic has medevac helicopters based there. They're flying in organs. They're flying in doctors for these transplants. Does the mayor know that? Probably. Does he know to the extent that it's occurring?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he knows about general aviation. He is not engaged with the aviation community.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. That's what we're going to try to do. Is at least, hey, before you go out here to close this airport, talk to us.
You haven't talked to him yet for yourself?
Not specific to the mayor or his direct staff.
Yeah.
I did. This is back a couple of years ago when he became mayor. I did talk to one of his legislative aides.
Okay.
And they knew nothing about airports.
Oh yeah. I mean, like you said, I mean, that's well, hopefully, with the advocacy and you have a great way of approaching people. So hopefully you can find some middle ground on this, because like you said, it seems like you already have, it seems like you have a good playbook of what could work there and make it more accessible to people in the community. So hopefully,
and Burke is pretty cool, because we talk about fees again.
Yeah.
Their signature.
Yeah.
And that signature takes part in the pricing structure, where it's I think for twins overnight, and this is overnight, $60.
Yeah.
Singles are $30. That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you park at the base of the control tower, you pay the city $7 or $10.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think anybody would complain about paying that much to park.
No, I wouldn't.
With that direct access
to
downtown
one person.
Cleveland. Yeah.
There might be somebody out there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
you have options there.
Yeah. No,
right?
that's
I've been to Burke many times. It's a really cool airport. You can land, park, wherever you want to park, and then literally walk down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Downtown Cleveland.
Yeah.
In the terminal building at Cleveland, the old terminal building, the women's Air and Space Museum is in there. It's a pretty cool little thing. The USS Cod, the submarine, and there's even a freighter.
Wow.
A Great Lakes freighter you can go walk around on. So, if you're looking to do something on a Saturday morning, go fly to Burke.
Yeah, right. Yeah, put some rubber down on the runway.
Yeah, put some aircraft down over there, and
I've only had the pleasure of being on the outside of it. I've never had the pleasure of landing at it, but I always have wanted to. So maybe I'll do that someday.
Yeah, it's a fun airport to fly into.
Yeah.
It's right on the lake. I mean, it literally it's like a Megs 2.0 airport. Really cool airport.
Is there anything, now that we're reaching time for you probably to get to your checkpoint?
Yeah, I got about. I don't know. I can go another 10 minutes.
All right. Well, let's just say these last 10 minutes. I have something I wanted to ask you anyways from some of the stuff you've been talking about.
Yeah.
But any of the serious stuff that you want to loop up, complete, say something we didn't talk about?
We covered a lot.
We did cover a lot.
From
I almost wonder if that marijuana floating from that guy did have an effect.
From bingo at the side of beef all the way to Burke Lakefront.
But I've had a blast. I'll say that.
Yeah, no, I enjoy doing these podcasts. I've done a couple.
Oh, so you do it often?
Well, I do one for it's called Midwest Flyer or Midwest Flying, or Flying Midwest. I'm sorry, the Flying Midwest podcast. They're based up in Minnesota.
Oh, they're great.
Really good guys. I usually do like an Oshkosh edition.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you got the voice again for. You could be an announcer at Oshkosh.
I could.
You could.
I should do that.
Yeah, you should. I'd listen to it. What's this guy have to say?
Well, I was evading the Oshkosh or the EAA police for a few days a couple years ago. That's the story. I can tell that story again once I get through this.
Yeah.
So, for all the other airport, personnel managers that listen to this, here's the thing. You got to do what's the best for your airport, right? And we understand that. But just have that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Communication is everything.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you can justify landing fees and they're reasonable and they're not going to discriminate users and, who are they going to impact? Is it only going to be, if you're going to put a weight limit on it, is it only going to be the 9,000, 10,000, and above? Communicate that.
Yeah.
Explain why you're doing it. Not just that, we need to impose landing fees because you guys need to pay for this. That's probably not the right answer, right?
Probably not.
Zanesville, Ohio wanted to institute landing fees. And we fought this one. And it wasn't ADSB related.
Yeah.
This was pure landing fee stuff.
Guy out there with a piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah, well, they didn't know how they were going to do it.
Okay.
Real quick, the initial proposal was $50 per landing.
Woo!
For everybody. Base there or
no
not.
matter touch and go.
Didn't matter. $50.
Okay, well.
Ooh, that's
audacious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So went to a city council meeting. 'Cause that's what we do. AOPA, we go to city council.
Right. I've
been to a township meeting, village township meeting.
Yeah.
Isle, Minnesota. In early March. It was cold. I got the car stuck in a snowbank. Anyway.
You just have a lot of snow adventures.
Yeah.
You can't switch regions.
Right.
We never work for you. Stacy's safe. He's not taking her.
Well, she's got Florida. I'll say that.
Yeah, right.
So, go to the city council meeting. We'd already written a letter to the city council. A lot of pilots showed up.
Yeah.
And they did their 2 or 3 minutes they were allotted. And our message was, hey, you need to rethink this because, number one, nobody else in the country charges based aircraft.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
They were going to charge based airplanes, $50. Everybody, $50. Well, it came up at the city council meeting. The mayor wanted to offset the entire operating budget of the airport with landing fees. Because, by God, if they want this airport, they're going to pay for it. And we have a youth sports program to pay for.
You're right.
His words.
His words. All right.
So he already told us that they don't want to listen to their grant obligations of operating the airport. Or number two, they want to divert that money to pay for a youth sports program. Okay, so
where do you start from with that?
So where do you go from there? Okay, well, they went back and rewrote the ordinance.
They did.
They did. They went to a weight-based system. Okay. They're still going to charge based aircraft.
Yeah.
And, to be honest, it wasn't horribly unreasonable, but there were two things that were, and they were pretty bad. Is your aircraft 1,000 pounds or less?
Yeah.
$150 a year.
Okay.
Are you going to do flight instruction?
Yeah.
$150 a year. Every time you land.
Every time you land.
What are you thinking?
For a moment, I was like, is that it? $150 for the whole year? Or,
So you're telling me that if my airplane is 1,001 pounds, it's only $4 a landing? But if mine's 1,000 pounds or less, it's $150? What kind of backwards world are we living in here? So, luckily at that time, this was back in the spring of this year.
Yeah.
It got tabled, right?
Okay.
They tabled the ordinance, and if it doesn't come back up in the next meeting, it's dead, which it did not.
Okay.
But there were some other things with the FBO. Very good FBO there that charges no fees for anything unless you
local kind of mom
and pop place. In fact, they're a medevac. Zanesville Aviation. They do organ transplant. They have a 135 certificate for that. And they're helping us on the Burke Lakefront thing because they go to Burke all the time.
Absolutely. Makes sense.
Yep.
The Mayo Clinic, right?
So there were some things in the contract.
Cleveland Clinic.
Cleveland Clinic.
Clinic. That Mayo. I was thinking Minnesota.
Yeah.
That license plate has been blown away.
That's right.
Can't get it out of my head.
Yeah. So they helped. The FBO was very helpful in helping combat this, and they had also some legal avenues they could have taken
Yeah.
based on their lease. But anyway, but that was not ADSB based at all.
Yeah.
That was a pure fee discussion that was unreasonable. And we tried to work with the city,
Yeah.
like, hey, what are your needs?
Yeah.
They wouldn't tell us. They were just dead set on instituting these landing fees. Again, communication,
Right.
A lot of the strife could have been resolved just with some simple conversation.
Well, and I will just say, on the other side of the fence, like this, if I had to assess this as an airport manager, I have heard the name Zanesville, Ohio, from your mouth.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
And I would assume that they don't have the market to keep somebody at that airport if they're charging exorbitant fees. I mean, is there? I would assume, obviously nobody wants to leave their hometown airport and everything, but let's just say they were successful in these fees. I just don't think realistically people would put up with it.
No,
that they would leave.
That they would, 100%. They would leave. A lot of flight schools use that airport for practice approaches and even touch and goes because they have a DME arc on a VOR.
Okay. Yeah.
So not only that, they, I don't know how many operations per year they had, but I think it was 5,000 or 7,000, which isn't a lot.
Right.
But that's what the mayor was looking at, right? Well, we have X amount of operations, and times $50 equals our operating budget that we can.
Just there you go.
That was the simple math.
Those are such a cool airport though, with that type of operation. I love airports like that.
Yeah, and it's a nice airport.
Yeah.
It's kind of in east central Ohio. Drive time about an hour east of Columbus. A lot of recreation around there.
Yeah.
A lot of tourism kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the mayor, he's just off his rocker. And I told him that to his face.
Good for you.
Yeah. And I tend to not shy away sometimes.
I've known you for a few years now, and I would say I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I'll be a little blunt.
Honestly, it needs to be a little blunt.
It does. And that's why if you're listening, communication is very important. And on this whole process, whether you're talking about the ADSB stuff or fees or whatever.
Right.
Right.
Well, quite honestly, that's why I asked if you would come on this podcast, because there is a lot of people that this grew outside of aviation, but once I announced it to my group, there are a lot of people in my role that said, and I'm like, you should. And I will say, I offered to save to AAA. I have not heard back.
Okay.
But to your credit, you came on to speak your mind. And, I think any reasonable person would say that there is a lot more in common that we have.
Oh, so much more.
Yeah.
AOPA, we're a pilot association.
Right.
We don't have airport anywhere in our name whatsoever.
Right.
But I'll say outside of the legislative, stuff, that's where I spend my time.
Yeah.
Is advocating for airports.
Yeah.
For airports. I go and AOPA, we're the only association that goes to city council meetings.
Yeah.
Or county commission meetings.
Yeah.
Or Isle, Minnesota, population 512.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Yeah. It's so important though to show up.
Yeah, you've got to be there, and we build up these local support groups, and we educate them that, hey guys, your mission needs to be to coexist on the airport.
Right.
You might have some complaints about whatever's happening at the airport, or what the plans are at the airport. Master planning.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Right.
For any airport to undergo a master plan. Sometimes there's some hard realities that get crossed in the planning process.
Well, and I think that's such a huge spot for me that's so underlooked in the advocacy part of this, because up to this point, I have worked at commercial service airports. This is the first general aviation airport purely that I've worked at. They all have had a component, obviously. Every airport is general aviation. But, have someone go to the table with you. So I don't want to knock anybody, because a lot of them, they have really good people, but it's like, okay, we'll tell you, bye, go have fun with your governing body, or go see, and even for an airport like ours, some of the organizations that we're a part of that advocate for airports, I am not even allowed to be on their policy committees.
I know.
because I'm a general aviation airport.
Yeah.
And I find that ridiculous. And it's not even really a dig on the organization. It's a dig on my peers,
Sure.
which I like my peers. But, I do. But it's like, if we can't even have a seat at the table, how can we advocate, And so.
Yeah. And, AAA, commercial service airports, that's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
I think the smaller GAs, even medium-sized GAs, maybe get left behind in some of the conversations.
Absolutely.
The state associations are great.
I agree.
But for that federal jump from state to federal on GA airports, AOPA, we advocated an FAA reauthorization for a bump in funding to GA airports.
I remember that, and we didn't get it there, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, so AOPA is going to bat for a lot of airport things.
Yeah.
That I think our members don't even realize.
Yeah.
Unless we, and I'll admit AOPA doesn't always do a good job of highlighting some of the back story things that happen, because like when I go to a city council meeting and I'm there for a couple hours and nothing happens.
Right.
That's really not like a big news story, right? Especially if nothing came of it.
Right.
But we were still there. We showed up, right?
And that means like so much in that process to a local official.
Yeah.
And I say that all the time because when it's like noise, and I'm like, people that have a noise comment about the airport, it is 0.00001% of the population. But the other 99%, they don't show up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you're hearing from that. But with someone like AOPA or is there to advocate, and maybe in some cases say what the airport staff can't say.
Correct.
All
the time. I talk to airport managers, say, hey, we need somebody to say this. I can't say it because of my position.
Right.
Or, they need to hear it from somebody else.
Right.
I get that a lot.
Right.
Like, hey, I've talked to the mayor, but they want to hear it from somebody else.
Right.
Just did that actually with an airport here in the Chicago area on noise complaints. And wrote a letter. That is no problem for us to write a letter supporting your airport. And very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But that's what we do because, again, back to the beginning of this, if there's no airports,
there's
no pilots. Oh, man, they found us.
They did. Oh, no. That's where that pot smell's coming from.
They found us.
I will say, they're right next to us.
I think somebody didn't pay their parking fee.
Yeah, right? How dare they? It's going to be me here in a minute.
That's right. But, yeah, and again, all these little issues, pick your topic, hangar leases, hangar construction, airport development, master planning, communication. Right?
Yep.
And AOPA, we can help communicate for you.
Absolutely.
If your airport's undergoing a big master plan or this is happening and you need some public comment or you want the public comment, right?
Right.
I don't know how many times I hear from consulting engineers or even airports that, hey, nobody commented, right?
Yeah.
Nobody said anything.
Nobody said a word, right.
And then they come in at the end whenever they see the plan, like, well, we didn't want that. Well, there's a process to this, and I get that our members and pilots maybe don't understand the big picture, but AOPA can help get that message out. That's what we do. For Ann Arbor. I can't believe I said Ann Arbor.
Michigan.
I can't believe I helped Ann Arbor.
That place.
But with their runway extension,
that's the only spot you want to close the airport, right?
Yeah.
That could go away.
Ann Arbor.
They got nothing going on up there.
Yeah, but they were doing a master planning on their runway realignment and this and that, and
I think I remember hearing something about this.
Yeah, so we made comments on that. Now we don't do that for every single master plan, but if it's something a little contentious, or they need that third party to come in and say, hey, this is industry standard stuff, right?
Right.
Because they had a very contentious neighborhood, Pittsfield Township. I still remember the name of that. That was totally against any airport development whatsoever, and that helped put it across the line. Yeah. With the city council to accept it. So, we're here to help. We're not here to be adversarial on every single thing you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say on my part, our relationship in a professional environment, I haven't found that. I haven't. No. I found everything to be reasonable. Again, not saying everything's agreed upon, but I think that is a good relationship. We can be honest with each other and say, well, this is my perspective and this is mine, but fine. that middle point where
Well,
we're at least communicating on things.
and if you're willing to work on the little things and the good things,
Yeah.
then when there is a contentious,
Right.
it makes it a lot easier to have a
Absolutely.
conversation.
So I did want to ask you before you step out of this car, because I know you got to run, and the cop, Johnny Law, is on us. Do you still have your badge?
No.
So, you mentioned you built your own airplane.
Yeah.
And I love to fly, but I just know my limitations, and these hands, I would not get in anything that they were crafted by. So, can you just say what you built? And I know maybe that's just, you got to run, so just a quick.
Oh no,
version
I'm good. So
Okay.
a Vans RV.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah.
it's not. I didn't go to Home Depot and
Right.
start buying.
Yeah.
But no, it was well established. Kit manufacturer.
Yeah.
Vans aircraft. They've been in the business in 1973 or 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
So built the RV-12, which came out. The kit came out in 2008. We started in 2010.
Yeah.
And my dad had always wanted to build an airplane.
Oh, he
and-
built it with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We did it
that's,
kind of a.
that's
little
so much fun.
It was a family project.
Yeah.
And
you still love each other even after it's done.
yeah. So, being around aviation, obviously,
Yeah.
you kind of know, okay, well, it's experimental, but what does that really mean?
Yeah.
And I've been going to Oshkosh since 2000. So,
Wow.
EAA, obviously EAA member too, and
You
been
graduated in
exposed to all that.
2004, so that you started going to the Mecca, right?
Yes.
When you got into this.
Well, my first trip to Oshkosh was in a DC-3, that one I used to polish.
The polished one.
The polished
It was
one,
nice and shiny when
Yeah.
you landed.
Ohio University, the Avionics Engineering Center,
Yeah.
they operated DC-3.
Wow.
It was originally a check aircraft with the FAA.
Yeah. Oh,
Flight Check 7, actually.
what a beautiful time if
Yeah.
you were a Czech airman to fly
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah, and they donated the airplane. The FAA donated 3 of them actually to Ohio University. This was the lowest time, so they kept that one. And now it's 7 Alpha Pop, and they still fly it. It's still in their fleet.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Just as shiny as you kept it, or okay, slipping a little bit.
maybe slipping a little bit. But anyway, so building the airplane.
Yeah.
So some of the skills I learned working in that hangar,
Yeah.
riveting. I learned how to rivet there because
Yeah.
had to fix some things and
I just
build.
said it sounds riveting. I know.
Yeah, it's,
I'm sure you heard it 5 million times,
Yeah.
but whatever.
so we're like, can we really do this?
Yeah.
So we met a guy in Columbus that was building the exact same airplane. So we went up, met him one evening, and it was cold. It was like January.
Yeah.
And we're in his hangar, riveting his tail cone piece together with him. We're like, this isn't that bad. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this guy's kind of weird anyway. If he can do it, I think we can do it. And anyway, we've become lifelong friends now with Dave
I love
that built this airplane. And so we got home and ordered the tail kit. That's
Yeah.
the first thing you order. And it shows up. And these plans, they're like 11 by 17 pieces
Yeah.
of paper. And it's got this binder thing.
Yeah.
We couldn't figure out how to put the pages together. Like, how do you put what is this? Like, it's not like a little click together, 3-ring binder.
Right.
It's like its own weird plastic zip tie and 2 pieces. Like, what? We couldn't even put the plans together. Like, this is not a good start. Like, we had to Google how to put this thing together. Anyway, we got that figured out.
You're not giving me a bunch of confidence over
Yeah.
the start of this process.
So, anyway, we
Yeah.
built the tail in
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Wow.
We're like, well, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We got to spend more money. We ordered...
You can't just have a tail.
Yeah. So the wing kit, so through some online forums, found a guy that was selling his brand new wing kit, actually right up here in Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we drove up with a trailer, picked up the wings, the wing kit, and all in one day, got it back home, built the wings. And I was working in my parents' basement. I wasn't married at the time.
Yeah.
It was back in 2010. I was working for the patrol and working
Yeah.
night shift. So, we worked on it 3-4 days a week and, progressed up, eventually got where it was getting too big for the basement.
Yeah.
So we got it into the garage.
Wow. So you actually built it in the basement.
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
That just resonated with me. Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
actually getting built in. Would you bring it up the stairs? Or?
Well, my parents had a kind of a walkout basement.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started there
Yeah.
and it was like actually in a it was like a den library that we converted into a airplane factory, and built it there, and then moved it to the garage because then the pieces got joined together, got bigger, got it on the landing gear, and getting close time for the engine and avionics and all that, and luckily we were able to get a hangar at the airport opened up, so we moved into a hangar to finish it. But we started in February 2010. And I flew it for the first time in July of 2012.
Are you apprehensive at all, or were you like, we know what we did, we got this? Because I'm not saying you guys saw what you were doing. If I built something, I would be like,
So the insurance required that I have at least 1 hour of dual. In this specific airframe. So at the time, there was only 2 places you could get dual in this airplane. One was the factory in Oregon. And then there was an instructor in Texas that had an LOA to provide instruction in Denton, Texas. So we contacted him, and I had some family in Texas that we could go visit. So we went to Texas, and I flew for a couple hours with him, and he showed us some stuff on the airplane, and it was actually a really good deal. And that was about a month before I flew it. But I had flown other RVs, but they're all a little bit different. And I remember, the FAA came to inspect it.
Yeah.
And I tried to bribe them with donuts.
Fair.
Because we live pretty close to an Amish bakery.
Yeah.
They have these huge donuts. I mean, they're massive.
They're good, right?
Oh, they're very good. Yeah. So, of course, we go get the donuts. And, they're all set up. And, but the FAA was great. It was a very good experience, that whole thing. And they signed it off. He signed the paper off.
Great. Yeah.
And it's like, well,
he signed off on it.
next thing to do is fly it, right?
Yeah.
And so a couple of days later after the inspection, I was actually at work at Highway Patrol, and the weather looked pretty good. I was like, I think I need to go fly it today.
That was it. Yeah, you made your moment.
So I took some, vacation time, and we got married at this point. So I'm married, and I think it was a Saturday, actually. And I told my wife, I said, we're going to fly the airplane. She's like, really? she's like, well, yeah, what you expect I was going to do with it, right?
Yeah. So just gonna say.
And, I've been going through the procedure, the flight test procedures. But the first flight is really just go fly the airplane.
Yeah.
And just go fly it, make sure all the systems are working. And I didn't want a lot of people there.
Yeah.
So it was just, Dad and my wife.
Did he go with you? Or did you just
no, so at the time, it
has to be solo.
It wasn't that you couldn't have the second person in the airplane.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine just happened to be at the airport, and he said, are you going to fly it today? And I'm like, getting ready right now. He's like, I'm sticking around for this. I'm
going to watch this go down.
Yeah. So I wasn't really nervous because you spent a lot of time with it.
Yeah.
Right? You kind of, we'd run the engine and taxied it and everything, and, it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
Make sure it had fuel in it. It's like one thing, like, okay, we'll put some gas.
Right.
Make sure it's got gas. And, ran the engine up, did some normal stuff.
Yeah.
All the normal things you do before you go fly. And I was taxiing out, right? And I'm kind of sitting at the end of the runway, and my dad, he got a handheld, he said, do you have a fire extinguisher in there? And I'm like, do you have a fire extinguisher? That was like the conversation that we had. And, I thought, well, I'm going to do a couple high-speed taxis. I'm like, nope, I'm just going to go fly it. And, full throttle, and it came off the ground and flew around for about 20, 30 minutes, just orbiting the airport and, checking everything out. And actually climbed up, did a couple stalls just to kind of get the feel for it. Because it was supposed to stall around 45 or something clean.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure the airspeed, that was actually my biggest worry. It wasn't the engine or this or that. It's like, does the stuff work?
Does it match?
Is it accurate? Is everything accurate?
What you expect? Yeah.
What I expect. So it stalled right around 45. And I'm like, okay, well, that's, or 43, whatever that number is. And okay, so went out, flew it that day, and it was a non-event.
Which is a perfect day for flying.
Perfect day.
Yeah, perfect day.
And then you start, okay, and I think, we had all these test cards that Vans provided.
Yeah.
So then started going through the testing, had a time to climb, and it wanted to know, you flew a GPS course to make sure your airspeed is correct.
Yeah.
Calibrated airspeed and all that. So which that took about 10 hours to get through.
Yeah.
And then you have a flight test area you have to stay in until you fly the phase 1 time off on it. But yeah, I mean, I've got 850 hours on it now.
Wow. And you've painted it? You
Yeah, so it got painted. Yeah, so we did we paid to have it painted. We took it to that paint shop.
That you know.
Yeah. Because we did all this hard work on it. We didn't want it to look bad.
Yeah.
I'm not a painter.
Right.
I'm lucky to spray paint something. Right?
Well, that's the funny part is you see these RVs, a lot of them, they get like they got it and then they still paint it.
Oh yeah.
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 And it's like
so our stayed unpainted for about a year.
Yeah.
Because we were actually waiting to get in the paint shop.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad we didn't because there were some service bulletins that came out on the airframe, so we had to actually add some stiffener pieces, in certain places that all airplanes go through all this. But
Yeah.
so luckily, one of the big ones that came out was adding some structure with the landing gear,
Yeah.
and we actually had to take the landing gear off of it. I'd flown it like 12 hours, and the service bulletin came out. You're gonna take it apart? Seriously? But it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And add some stiffeners. So we're glad we did that before it got painted. But flew to Oshkosh.
Oh, okay.
Flown it up there a couple times.
Yeah.
I've taken it. All over the place. It's actually a really good little cross country airplane. It's got a dual axis autopilot.
Yeah.
It's not IFR.
Yeah.
It could be potentially, but
Yeah.
I fly over to Frederick, Maryland. Yeah, all over.
What a cool project though to have with you and your dad.
Yeah, it was great,
Yeah.
and then also be able to maintain it.
Yeah.
After. So
Yeah, I'm assuming it'll be with you forever. I mean, you can't get rid
Yeah, I do need a 4-seat airplane.
Yeah.
Because I've got a 10-year-old now.
Yeah.
And my wife, so it's kind of well, who's going to stay home, right? But so I'd like to get into a 4-seat something. I've been looking at 182s or even, older F-33 Bonanza or even a V-tail Bonanza.
Yeah. But that does complement the RV-12 though. You'd have
maybe.
Really? You think you'd part ways with it?
Potentially, because
Wow.
I'm even thinking about building an RV-10, which is the 4-seat version.
Okay. Well,
So maybe start on the airframe stuff, and when it gets time for the really expensive engine and avionics, sell the little one and do that. But I don't know. Maybe even I'm talking to a local guy about maybe partnering on RV-10.
Yeah.
And that might be able to keep the other RV. So
yeah.
but it's airplane problems. Right?
Airplane problems.
Yeah, airplane problems.
Well, speaking of which, probably Southwest problems are $over.
Yeah, actually, I should check because government shut down. I guess it's still shut down, and they're reducing air traffic. So
They are, and Midway's on the list, but I think today we're only at 4%, up to 10% come Monday.
Yeah,
I think this is what I am.
So I'm playing airline roulette. Am I in Chicago tonight? Am I going to drive home?
Right.
Still on time.
Still on time.
Still on time.
Well, thank you for making this a very memorable podcast.
Anytime. And there's so many other topics aside from specific topics.
Yeah.
If we want to spend a whole episode, a whole podcast on, Mosaic, for example.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that.
That is
come back
true.
And we talk about Mosaic.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Maybe we'll find another parking garage somewhere to broadcast out of. It was a first for me, and I had so much fun doing it. You're always such a joy to speak with, and thank you for communicating as was your
I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah,
because again, airports, they're important to both sides.
Yeah,
and especially I think we're lucky with you because you do have the pilot knowledge, right?
I claim to be a pilot. I claim. I'm not building anything.
I pilot, I fly.
I know enough to be dangerous.
Yes. But, there are airport managers that aren't pilots.
Yeah.
And, hey, go learn to fly,
It's such a powerful message, too, because I think, I've often said this, and I say it. I don't think, you don't have to be a pilot to run an airport. Right. But what a fun thing to do, though. And I will say on my side to it, I started off, I didn't have money. I couldn't, do the pilot training when I was going to school. And so I did a little later in life after I started making some money. But this is in California, so still not a lot. And they always threaten to shut
You
my
got
airport
taxed very
down.
well.
Yeah, right.
You got taxed very well.
I'm going to go to Reed Hillview. We're going to close it down. What? But I have, especially some days, you go, I don't get up as much as I want. But hopefully that will change here soon with the potential purchase of the Waco.
Yeah, that's right.
So hopefully.
Yeah.
I actually, Tuesday is my first day training in a tail dragger.
Ooh.
Yep.
All right.
So we'll see.
Piece of advice.
Thank
what
you.
I've been told.
Yes.
And I've got my tail wheel endorsement, but I don't fly. My RV's nose wheel.
Yeah.
But they say 90% of tail wheel is mental.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because and I agree. I think for pilots that grew up on nose wheels or not exposed to tail wheels a lot,
yeah,
you kind of overthink it.
Yeah.
Maybe
I have been overthinking it.
I have been. Kind of like a lot of other things with flying.
Yeah.
That if you're not exposed to it, you just don't know about it.
Yeah.
It's a little intimidating. I think you just don't overthink it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because it is, I've been talking to a lot of people about their experience with it, and I actually there's a guy in Chicago that has a Waco, and he's been really open, and you've connected me as well to the recreator of the Waco. But no, it's one of those things where if it's been a long time, like in the office, like today was a perfect day. I wanted to do this first and foremost, but if you were coming to town, I probably would have taken the plane up tonight because it just allows that connection and, that perspective again, which it's hard to gain that if you're not a part of it. Then it really just becomes, I have a city or a county job or whatever it might be, and it happens to be at the airport,
Right.
But I do love that perspective and, quite honestly, a little bit of street cred, because when I started my career, I would hear a lot, you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're not a pilot. And so there is that passion to it, but also to it, it's not for everybody, but I absolutely would recommend it. And also to staying current,
staying current, staying up to date with new technologies and what pilots are utilizing. And how when you're a pilot, then you understand the impacts of, because there is that perception, and I'll kind of close up with this, is, that, well, if you go on an airplane, you got to be rich.
Yes.
Right? And, okay, so what is a $4 landing fee really, is that really going to bust your wallet? Right? Well, let's put this in some perspective.
Right.
Okay, I'm not rich.
Yes.
Right? Are there rich people that own airplanes?
Absolutely.
Yes, there are. There's also a lot of farmers that own airplanes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teachers that own airplanes.
Yeah.
It is the biggest spectrum of people you will meet at an airport.
Yeah.
They're not all doctors. They're not all lawyers. It's a really broad range of people that own airplanes. And when you do own an airplane, you have to have that airplane inspected.
Yeah.
And when you're the personally owned airplane, it's out of your wallet. It's not a business paying for it. It's you got to maintain it. You got to put it in a hangar.
Yeah.
You've got to pay the insurance on it. So when you add all this stuff up on aircraft ownership, and it's not cheap, right? AOPA, we work to try to keep it as economical as possible, but look, there's a lot of things set by the market that AOPA doesn't have control over.
Right.
Engines are expensive.
Yep.
I mean, a new IO 360 is pushing $70,000, for a 160, 180 horsepower engine that just goes on a 172. So, it's not cheap. And then when you fly to go get the $100 hamburger, on a Sunday morning, and you got to park at an FBO and they charge you $20, and then you got to put the $5 or $6 or $7 gas in it.
Yep.
And then you get a landing fee for $4.
Right.
You're just like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Where
right.
does it end?
Right.
And that's pilot owner perspective, right?
Yeah.
And we have a lot of members that only go fly once a month,
Right.
or they're part of a flying club to make it more economical. Those are great ways to get into aviation.
Oh yeah.
And
Right.
part of an airplane. Um, so when an airport manager says, "Well, it's only $4,"
Right.
well, yeah, it's $4 on top of
Yeah.
everything else, and so just being aware of that, I think, because some airport managers don't know what the costs are in owning an airplane. They think it's a hobby, and yeah, to some people, it is a hobby.
Right.
Like me, I choose to own an airplane rather than go hunting or,
Right.
There's a lot of expensive hobbies out there.
Right.
I've got a friend that goes hunting and he's got the big camper and he's
Right.
got 3 4-wheelers and
Right.
he's got, all the equipment, and
But they don't charge him $4 to go in the forest every time.
he gets charged a lot more than that, I promise.
Right.
You got to go, because he goes on bear hunts.
Yeah.
And, and he goes on the big game hunts. That is not cheap at all.
No, it's not.
And,
no.
So, aircraft ownership, you make it what you want it to be.
Right.
And it's a choice. And, and we're very lucky to be able to do that in this country because, you go over to Europe.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And it's just an entirely different story over there.
Well, and keeping it a pathway for people to be able to do it, because it is. You see people that are just barely hanging on to still be a part of it. And, I often say to people, I'm like, well, it would be the same notion as considering everybody that owns a car is rich.
Right.
There are some rich people that own some rich cars.
Yes.
Yes. But there's also some people that, I don't want to say have a beater, but, are just, I think to your overarching theme of communicating is the best way to do it. And I just want to say thank you for spending 3 hours with me in a parking garage at the Midway Airport, watching the police go by. And
I'm practicing for my Joe Rogan interview.
Yes, exactly. That'll be the next stop.
That's the next
when you're down there in Austin.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much for being at Destination Aviation. Anything else before we sign off?
Nope. Just, if you're listening, especially the airport folks, make your airport welcoming. Bring in the public. AOPA has a STEM curriculum. If your local school district, whatever, promote that. Get people to your airport, open the eyes of the public. Get the kids involved, because, not everybody is as fortunate as as we are to own airplanes or even hang out at an airport for that matter. Bring them to the airport, show them what's available and that there is access to it, right? Because aviation, I think, I met she flies for for one of the guard units in Ohio. Started out, she didn't even know what an airplane was in high school until she heard about AOPA and our scholarship program, got a scholarship, and now she's flying C-17s.
Every one of us in these seats has someone who first introduced us to it.
Correct.
And if you can be that somebody for somebody else.
Yeah.
So.
And that's not just to pilots, but airport managers and airport authorities and everybody should be promoting aviation. Otherwise, you get what happened at Chicago Megs and, Burke Lakefront and all the negativity around airports.
Yeah. And now all we can do with Megs is go pour one out for it down on the lake shore.
Oh.
All right, Kyle. Well, safe travels home.
Appreciate it.
Southwest. Thank you so much for being on Destination Aviation.
All right. Thank you.
Well, that was something, right? Yeah, it was a really good conversation. And I'll tell you this much. It was the longest episode in Destination Aviation's podcasting history. So congratulations to both Kyle and myself. And spending over 3 hours in a parking garage at an airport. And I paid my fair share to Midway Airport. I should have gone to the daily parking lot after I left. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I guess I have been in here this long. What an amazing conversation. Enjoyed it tremendously. Tremendously. Yes, Jeff. Marathons start to mess up my mouth. But no, it was so much fun. Hope Kyle got safe travels home. And thank you again for coming here and expressing the interests of aviation. I love his messaging. I think we all could benefit from a little more understanding in our industry. If you liked what you heard here, or if you have comments, questions, concerns, or maybe, just maybe, you want to spend 3 hours with me in a parking garage, I will do that. I will commit to that. But if you do, drop me a line at dapodcast85@gmail.com. That's where you can suggest future shows. Reach out, say hi. I really appreciate everybody. I keep hearing so many things about the podcast. I love it. Tomorrow when this puts out, so actually this will be in reverse. So I will be back a day once this is posted, but tomorrow in Jeff time, because this is going to post right after that, I will have taken my first training in a tail wheel aircraft as I lunge towards the Waco purchase, and that will be in a decathlon. So I'm really looking forward to doing that here and getting underway and making sure that I feel comfortable in a tail dragger. I loved Kyle's example of to me, and I can't remember now if he said it in the episode or if he just said it to me afterwards, but he said it's like 90% mental. And so love that thought. Looking forward to it. If you have comments on tail wheels, feel free to shoot it over to the email. And until next time, my friends, we'll see you down the runway.